Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I now call the regular meeting of the School Board of Palm Beach County to order at 5:04 p.m. Ms. Bellata, please call the roll.
District 1, Barbara McQuinn. Here. District 2, Alexandria Ayala.
Here.
District 3, sorry. Karen Burlham.
Here.
District 4, Erica Whitfield.
Here.
District 5, Frank Barbieri.
Here.
District 6, Marsha Andrews.
Here.
District 7, Edward Ferguson.
Here.
We have quorum with all 7 board members in attendance. Also joining us is Superintendent Michael Burke, General Counsel Sean Bernard, Inspector General Teresa Michael, and our Board Clerk Tony Bellota. Senior staff members will join us periodically as directed by the Superintendent. The National Anthem will be performed by students from Discovery Key Elementary School. Everyone please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance followed by the National Anthem. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose bright stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight was the red as we watched, was so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Great job, Discovery Key. Usually we have high school students singing for us, so you were just as good as them, so thank you for coming tonight. Viewers and listeners can access the meeting today by either watching on Comcast channels 234 and 235, UVerse channel 99, or by using the YouTube link on our webpage at palmbeachschools.org. In the event that the link is interrupted, for technical reasons, please switch over to the TV channels. All board meetings are recorded in their entirety and posted on the district website within 24 hours. We also offer a listening-only option which the public can access by calling 561-357-5900 or toll-free at 1-866-930-7015. The meeting ID is 1561-880-1124 hashtag. On behalf of the board, I'd like to welcome any public speakers who are joining us today. The school board supports the peaceful assembly of persons to express themselves regarding matters concerning district students, employees, and the community. As a reminder, public comments must relate to the subject matter of the agenda item for which the speaker had requested to address. Per school board policy, because this meeting involves a school boundary issue, in addition to stating your name when you speak, speakers are requested to state their address or SAC number if you're speaking on a boundary issue this evening. Pursuant to school board policy, speakers whose comments do not relate to the topic that the speakers indicated, including but not limited to the mention of any person's candidacy for elected office, are subject to having the microphone turned off and forfeiting the right to speak at the remainder of today's meeting. Again, your attendance here at the board meeting is appreciated. Thank you for helping us to maintain decorum, civility, and the orderly conduct of school board business. We have 3 items have been added to the agenda for good cause. BRD 7, the Inspector General's annual evaluation. Good cause exists for adding this time certain items so that the board may comply with the provisions of the Inspector General's employment contract regarding annual evaluations. IG4, renewal of Inspector General's employment contract. Good cause exists for adding this time certain items so that the board may comply with the provisions of the Inspector General's employment contract regarding contract renewal terms. P2, personnel addendum. Good cause exists for adding this item so that employees can begin in their new positions as soon as possible. Mr. Superintendent, are you withdrawing any items?
No, sir.
Board members, are you pulling any items? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the agenda. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Ms. Ayala. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Are there any disclosures or abstentions? Seeing none, before we move into comments, I'd like the board to, a board member to make a motion to suspend Section A15 of Policy 1.03 to allow board members 4 minutes of comment instead of 3 minutes. That 4-minute provision is in the new policy that has not yet been enacted. But if I could have a motion by Mrs. Whitfield, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Mr. Superintendent, comments?
Yes, thank you. On our agenda tonight is a proclamation to recognize Black History Month. And I just wanted to point out a few events that have been taking place in Palm Beach County. Mrs. Andrews helped us kick things off on February 1st. There was a Black History Month Leadership Forum that provided a leadership panel that included our own Mr. Joe Sanchez, our Chief Operating Officer, as well as our County Administrator, Virginia Baker, the President of Palm Beach State College, Dr. Parker, Mr. Ricky Wade, and several other prominent members of our community that provided an excellent presentation, and they're kind of told their leadership stories and their journey. So that was terrific. Our website this month is featuring prominent Black leaders throughout history, both local and nationally, and we're going to hear a little bit more from Mr. Ferguson, I believe, on one of those leaders that's part of the namesake of the building we're sitting in right now. So a lot of great events going on also across our schools. The other thing I just wanted to touch on tonight, back on January 31st, we held our Celebrate the Great ceremony or celebration, which narrows down, you have almost 23,000 employees. We were able to recognize down to 16, whittled that down to 16 finalists in 4 categories, and ultimately 4 winners in the category of Principal of the Year, Assistant Principal of the Year, Teacher of the Year, and School-Related Support Employee of the Year. So we have about a 2-minute video I'd like to share with the audience.
This night is about you. We call it Celebrate the Great.
The School District of Palm Beach County is A-rated and high-performing because of our great employees. Our community is so fortunate. We have 23,000 members on Team Palm Beach, and tonight we celebrated their greatness. We had 16 amazing finalists, and now it's time to narrow it down to the winners in each category.
2023 School-Related Employee of the Year is Kathy Suarez.
What way can I help my community, my students, so that they're prepared every day to receive that education?
So this year's 2023 Teacher of the Year award goes to Jocelyn Leon.
And today I stand before you because of the support of amazing teachers who affirmed, educated, and inspired me. I stand before you because of the incredible mentors and colleagues and leadership and friends and family.
The Assistant Principal of the Year, Calethea Taylor, Lake Forest Community High School.
I am so grateful and honored, and I consider it not just a win for me, although it has my name on it, it's our whole school. And like I said earlier, I work with a family, and so this is a big family win for us.
Principal of the Year, Wayne Denard.
Like I told every single one of my kids, you're just as valuable as any kid in America. If you just believe in yourself, buy into this vision will take you to the stars.
This was an amazing evening to showcase the talents of our employees, and it really just kind of renews your energy to get back to work tomorrow. I have never met a more committed, caring group of people that are willing to go above and beyond and just get the job done. Thanks. It was a great evening. I want to, again, thank you. That event would not have been possible without our Education Foundation, so I would like to thank Mr. James Gavrlos. Also, the Cox Science Center was kind enough to host it for us in a really nice outdoor amphitheater type setting. And our partners at United Healthcare and other sponsors really helped finance and make that whole event possible. That really did, a few more things we're celebrating this month. It is Love the Bus Month, and we are hiring. The pay has been much improved for bus drivers, so if anybody's watching out there and looking for a job, part-time or full-time, we could use your help. And also it is Career Technical Education Month, so we are working to grow those programs and provide great career paths for both high school, actually middle, high school, and adult learners throughout Palm Beach County. Chairman Barbier, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. Ms. McQuinn, you have comments?
I do. A few weeks ago, I attended, along with Mr. Burke, the Ben Carson Reading Room opening ceremony at Dwight D. Eisenhower Elementary School. The reading room was funded by the Ben Carson Reading Project and the Ballon Isles Charities Foundation. We have a short clip.
We're excited to open up the 34th reading room, Ben Carson Reading Room in Florida, and with the help of Ballon Isles. This is the 6th school that they've sponsored, and it's really exciting to see the kids excited because they have an opportunity to develop themselves to be the best they can be.
They're now going to have this dedicated room where they can go in, just relax, and just read all the different books. And because the school has an environmental science program, they've brought the outdoors to the indoors.
My favorite part is the camping area and the area where there's a picnic blanket. It's really cool, and I like that there's books that we can pick.
Oh my goodness, when the kindergarten class came in, and I'm looking at their faces because they'd never seen it, and one little boy just looked around and he went, wow, and that says it all.
What do you think of the room? It's so pretty that I'm gonna faint. You're gonna faint? Probably!
They're still losing and getting teeth. I'm going to repeat a comment that I made in the video. This kindergarten class was coming in, and they're filing through the door, and this one little kindergarten student looked up. He looked around, and he said, wow. And I just thought, that is what we want for every one of our kids, to have a wow moment. So that was awesome. My next remarks, I'm doing okay, are of a more solemn nature. This morning I attended the memorial service of a retired Palm Beach County School District employee, Marvin Reeder Bain. Mr. Bain, known as Reed to his family, friends, and colleagues, was not a flamboyant person. He was unflappable. He was quiet, gentle, kind, and a great role model for students. My son had 2 favorite teachers in high school. Mr. Bain was one of those. He showed respect for his students. They respected him in return. Reed was a teacher and assistant principal and principal. His first principalship was at West Area Alternative School. He retired as principal of Pahokee High School. Under his leadership, the International Baccalaureate program was brought to Pahokee High School. Mr. Bain was a remarkable human being and career Palm Beach County School District educator. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McQuinn. Ms. Ayala?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I had the opportunity to attend 2 National School Boards Association conferences earlier this month. First part of that was an equity symposium where we discussed many important topics ranging from the use of electric school buses and its positive impacts on health, which I'm excited about our district implementing soon, the importance of advocating for well-funded and robust public education, and closing the achievement gap for students with disabilities through funding, and also enhancing dual enrollment in post-graduation programs for our high school seniors. During the Advocacy Institute, we discussed upcoming federal and state legislative proposals that may soon affect us as our session in Florida starts next month. And we heard from speakers like Roberto Rodriguez, the Assistant Secretary for Planning, Evaluation, and Policy Development at the U.S. Department of Education. Topics around digital access, vouchers, routing public dollars to private institutions, and many more things were discussed. I met many passionate education advocates from around the country, and we were able to discuss best practices and experiences regarding our responsibilities as board members. I'd also like to thank my own Congresswoman Lois Frankel, Congressman Jared Moskowitz, and Congresswoman Sheila Shirley Phyllis McCormick for taking the time to meet with me to discuss Florida's public education and our district's legislative priorities before session. It was a very informative and worthwhile conference, and I look forward to continuing to expand my professional development to do this job to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ayala. Mrs. Whitfield?
Thank you so much. I just wanted to skip my comments because I know we're having a long meeting tonight, but to say to everyone, thank you for your patience as we work through this boundary process. I know this hasn't been easy for the community, but we appreciate the faith you have in us, and I hope that we live up to it. Thank you.
Mrs. Andrews?
Thank you, and good afternoon to everyone. Happy Black History Month. I've been traveling around the schools, seeing all the wonderful activities, listening to the students talk about Black history and what it meant to them. So we're going to continue celebrating during this month, but every month. This morning I had the opportunity to go to the school within our district that's at the farthest northwest section of the county, Catherine E. Cunningham Canal Point Elementary School. They had their SAC meeting, that's the School Advisory Council. The school was filled with parents this morning, coming to see the school, see the principals, see the students, and talk about what's going on at the school. They had a presentation by the engine nerds. I'm hoping, there they are, right there on the screen. These are robotic students. They are learning right now to be engineers in the future. And they did a big presentation of all the things that they've learned in robotics and how their engineering skills are just growing, growing, growing. They will translate over to Pahokee Middle Senior High School, where they have the #1 National Robotics Program. So congratulations to K.E. Cunningham Canal Point. But also at that SAC meeting this morning, they had Officer C. Allen Smith talking to the parents about how our schools are kept safe. A presentation was made by her as she talked to them about the different things that we do here in Palm Beach County to keep our children safe, to keep our schools safe, to keep our community safe. I was so happy to hear her, and one of the things she said to them, see something, say something, and everybody repeated, see something, say something. And then there were wonderful children there in front of their parents receiving their Perfect Attendance Award. They have been in school every day this year up until now. It was about 12 students getting that award, getting the medal. It was absolutely great. And so you talk about things like mental health at these kinds of events. The SAC meeting talked about mental health as well as keeping our children safe with the officer. And that's the goal, to educate, to make sure that we have all of our children emotionally and socially happy, and to make sure that they are participating and that they graduate college and career ready. So it was exciting today at Canal Point. The children loved it, the parents loved it, a beautiful breakfast. It was just automatically great. And parents said, wow, when is the next SAC meeting? And that's what we want to hear, because the power is always in the parents. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews. Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Happy Black History Month to everyone. We have a roughly 2-minute video that we're going to show to the attendees and those who are watching this via YouTube in regard to Mr. William Holland, the late William Holland. He was born in 1922, passed away in 2002. In fact, his name is the name that you see when you come to this school district office every day, or however often you come to Fulton Holland Educational Center. In any event, one of many things that Mr. Holland is known for is being a trailblazer in terms of civil rights here in Palm Beach County. He was the first African-American attorney who practiced here in Palm Beach County, and he helped, actually, I would say, frankly, he's responsible for the integration of the schools here in Palm Beach County. And without the work of Mr. Holland, Dan Hendricks, who was the first African-American to ever be a school board member here in Palm Beach County, Arthur Anderson, Deborah Robinson, Marsha Andrews, and now Edwin Ferguson, I think it's fair to say that we would not be here in our current capacity. So a debt of gratitude is owed to Mr. Holland for being a trailblazer. And without any further ado, I'm going to stop talking and allow Mrs. Shea and her team to roll the clip.
It was 50 years ago that William M. Holland Sr.'s fight for equality became a reality, as the Palm Beach public school system became fully integrated, starting with North Barrow Elementary School.
When William Holland brought his lawsuit, it was 2 years after the Brown versus Board of Education decision in 1954. And still, 2 years later, the schools in Palm Beach County were not integrated.
We went to the school, this is Northbury Elementary School in West Palm Beach, to be allowed to be enter the school and become a student there. And we were denied the right to do so. And that gave us the case and conflict that we needed to go into federal court.
I understand fully what it meant for William Holland to bring his lawsuit so that my child today can attend that school.
It's one thing to walk a trail that's been created, and it's such another thing to be a person who has created the trail. And so his sacrifice it continues, and I hope he would be proud of the progress that's been made.
We each can do our part to ensure that our efforts to bring about positive change will have a lasting impact.
I am so elated and grateful for the work and the efforts of William Holland Sr. and his fight for our equality, for integration in Palm Beach County schools.
We are grateful for all those who came before us and paved the way to a better future.
I just want the people to appreciate what we've done. What we've been doing is making the battlefield even, so that at least you have an opportunity to use your mind, and address the opportunities that have been opened to you.
So thanks again to the Communications Department for putting together that abbreviated video. If you want to see the full video, which is roughly 10 minutes, you can go to the district website at palmbeachschools.org and you can take a look at the video there. Again, particularly in this time of shaming and ignorance and ignoring of persons, I think we can all take a little bit of Mr. Holland's spirit to move forward to make sure that Palm Beach County is, in fact, the best educational district here in this great United States of America. So again, to Mr. Holland and his family, we salute you. And again, I'm encouraging everybody to stand up and fight for what's right in terms of our educational system here in Palm Beach County. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ferguson. Vice Chairwoman Brill.
Thank you. So we do have a lot of speakers that we want to hear from. So I'm just going to comment on a meeting this morning of the Coalition of Boynton West Residential Associations. Their featured program was Meet the Principals, and Principal Oscar Otero and Assistant Principal Corey Clausen from Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School were there, along with Principal Joe Pacia, principal of West Boynton Middle School. And I will tell you that they were so inspiring. They inspired all of the attendees. The West Boynton area is so excited about these two fabulous new schools. They also said that the two of them could be comedians, the two principals together. It was just a light and lively presentation. And for those that aren't familiar with Cobra, if incorporated, would be our largest municipality, representing well over 100 communities. So we're excited about the new school. I just want to thank Steve Wallace, president of Cobra, for making this happen. The community is ready to buy in. They also announced that Cobra will provide a student at Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School with a $1,000 scholarship at the end of the first year. So they will continue their scholarship. They award a scholarship every year to a middle school and to Park Vista, the only high school out in that area. They are now going to include Dr. Joaquin Garcia. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Brill. I'll keep my comments short also so we can get to a lot of the things we have to consider today. Once a month at the regular board meeting, this is one of them, we recognize those employees who have passed away. Take a moment of silence to recognize them and their families. So I'd like to read their names. Anna Cabrera, she was a teacher at H.L. Watkins Middle. She was born in December of 1971, and she died in December of 2022. Scott Lehman, he was a teacher at Cross Point Elementary School. He was born in August of 1959, and he died in December of 2022. And the custodian at Spanish River High School, and I don't see his name, oh, I'm sorry, Claude St. Moore. He was born in December of 1966, and he died in January of 2023. If we could take a moment of silence for these employees and their families, please. Thank you very much. I would like to ask a board member to make a motion to reorder the agenda. It's come to my attention that the For Life Student Ambassador Program has some ambassadors here this evening. So what I'd like is a motion to reorder the agenda to take COM 7 out of order and put it up under recognitions so that we can have an opportunity to read the proclamation, vote on the proclamation, and present it to Tara Applebaum, Executive Director at the Safety for Life Foundation, as well as recognize student ambassadors Alexander Aguavo, Melanie Serrato, Logan Rodriguez, Angelina Flores, and Valerie Serrato. Do we have a motion? Let me have the superintendent read the recommendation first. Mr. Superintendent, would you read the recommendation?
I recommend the board proclaim March 4th, 2023 as Safety for Life Student Ambassador Recognition Day.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So at the end of the three recognitions that are already on, presentations that are already on the agenda, we will handle that one as well. And that takes us to Ms. Naka Nolam from the Communications and Engagement Department, who will join us for the February board recognitions. Good evening, Naka.
Good evening, Chair Barbieri, Vice Chair Brill, board members, Superintendent Burke, staff, and community members. This evening we have three recognitions on the agenda, and I hope the board members will join us here down on the floor to meet with the people being recognized this evening. So we begin with a recognition for the Sunshine State Scholars for the School District of Palm Beach County. Each district high school selects one junior to represent their school, a student who is distinguished in both mathematics and science. The district's Sunshine State Scholars are selected based on their academic and extracurricular history, their desire to attend a Florida college or university, and the results of an essay or video submission related to their future plans, academic passion, challenges, and other STEM-related activities and competitions. Congratulations to the following 11th grade students for being named 2023 District Sunshine State Scholars. Please come forward as I call your name. Matthew Kai from Atlantic Community High School. Gavin Emmerich from Palm Beach Central High School. Theodore Wang from Suncoast High School. And congratulations as well to the 2023 District Alternate, Casper Schroff from West Boca Raton Community High School. Next, we will be recognizing the Chuck Shaw Technical Education Center for being awarded national accreditation in December 2022 from the Council on Occupational Education. The Chuck Shaw Center received this national accreditation following an evaluation which determined that the center meets the standards of high quality of the commission, the needs of students, the community, and employers. The evaluation process included an extensive self-study and a comprehensive review by a visiting team of professional educators representing the Commission's member institutions from other states. The visiting team rated the self-study, noting 10 areas of excellence, 6 good, and no areas of non-compliance. Congratulations to the Chuck Shaw Technical Education Center for receiving national accreditation from the Council on Occupational Education. Here to accept this recognition from the Chuck Shaw Center, we have Awilda Tomas Andres, Principal, Stuart Mears, Assistant Principal, Anderson Lewis, Assistant Principal, Jane Kim, Manager of Compliance and Special Projects, Lumilia Zimke, Instructional Specialist, and Fred Barch, Director of Adult and Community Education. Let's give them a big round of applause. And finally this evening, with February being Career and Technical Education Month, we are proud to recognize the Career and Technical Education Students of the Year for middle school, high school, and junior reserve officers programs. Career and Technical Education Month is a time to tell the stories of leadership and excellence from classrooms across the country and raise awareness of the important role that career and technical education has in readying our students for economic success and workforce competitiveness. All of our CTE students tonight represent the great accomplishments happening in the career and technical education programs and academies across the district. The Department of Choice and Career Options would first like to congratulate the 2023 Middle School CTE Students of the Year, whose names will be displayed on the screens for everyone to see. At this time, I'd ask that any of our middle school CTE Students of the Year with us this evening to please come forward to be recognized by the board. Let's give them a big round of applause. Next, we want to recognize the 2023 High School CTE Students of the Year, whose names are displayed on the screens as well. Those high school students here this evening, please come forward to be recognized. Congratulations to each of you, and let's give them a round of applause. And finally, we want to recognize the 2023 JROTC Students of the Year from our high school JROTC programs, whose names are displayed on the screens as well. To the 2023 JROTC Students of the Year, congratulations, and please come forward to be recognized. Let's give them a big round of applause. Mr. Board Chair, Madam Vice Chair, board members, superintendent, staff, and members of the community, this concludes the recognitions for February. Thank you, everyone, for your attention this evening. Oh, that's right.
Not quite. I will read the proclamation for the Student Ambassador Recognition Day. Whereas teen safety continues to be a serious concern in Palm Beach County and is everyone's responsibility, and whereas Safety for Life is a teen safety and empowerment foundation designed to eliminate fatalities and serious injuries on and off our roads, and whereas since its founding, the Safety for Life Foundation has offered teens entry into the Student Ambassador Program, which provides information and tools to keep themselves and their peers healthy and safe, and whereas Safety for Life's Advisory Board, which consists of county and state agencies, provides data and research-based strategies for fostering successful futures, and whereas by connecting more than 500 student ambassadors from public, private, and charter schools across Palm Beach County, a recipe of solutions to the issues on the road and on the internet, human trafficking, police interaction with youth have been developed, and whereas Student Ambassador Day is an opportunity to encourage all teens and their families to join in making responsible choices and adopting healthy behaviors in each of the Safety for Life 4 elements, now therefore be it resolved that the Superintendent and School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim Saturday, March 4th, 2023 as Safety for Life Student Ambassador Recognition Day, done this 15th day of February 2023 in West Palm Beach. And I don't have the list with me with those student names on it, so for the ambassador, oh, they're all behind me, so come on up.
Okay, this concludes the recognitions for February. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Sorry about that. This time I ask our Student Government President, Natalie Fortin, to please address the board.
Thank you. Good afternoon, board members. Thank you for having me at this monthly board meeting. As for my president's report, I would just like to update the board members on our current county council progress. As of right now, we are preparing for our next meeting for the 2023 graduating student government seniors, titled Anything Goes. This meeting will focus on the membership motivation aspect of student government and will recognize and reward the accomplishments of young leaders. As for this week, our county council representatives will be attending FASC State Leadership Conference, where we will be actively learning leadership skills and how to implement them into the county council. It will be held at Coral Springs High School. As we look forward to that this week, I would also like to acknowledge and thank Superintendent Burke for holding our first hybrid Superintendent Student Advisory Committee meeting, where we nominated students where the nominated students were able to voice their opinions and encourage changes in the school district. Thank you, Superintendent Burke, for hearing student voices and allowing us room to speak and not only to lead in our schools, but also in the district. Thank you.
Thank you, President Fortin. We now move to committee reports. The Academic Advisory Committee has no report this evening. The Audit Committee report is attached. The Construction Oversight Review Committee is attached to the agenda. Do we have someone here from District Diversity that would like to address the board? Mr. Pagan.
Buenas tardes.
Buenas tardes.
No, thank you. And welcome, Mr. Barbieri. Welcome, the board members, Superintendent Mike Burt. It's a pleasure to be here with you today. The DDEC met on January 26, and the DDEC received a presentation on the Master Board analysis. Dr. Sommer, Dr. Hepburn, and Ms. Wyatt share how the process is conducted with the school principals. The presentation included tools that are used to increase the number of students taking accelerated courses. The data shared was desegregated for race, ethnicity, gender, ESE, and ESOL status. The outcomes show strong continuous increases in all groups taking advantage of the courses. The DDEC asked many questions regarding the process and provided suggestions for improvement to the process. The DDEC was pleased with the results being made. Mr. Oswald provided updates on the committee, including support for the DDEC membership to have their constituents complete the school effectiveness questionnaire if they have students in the school system. In addition, there was an explanation on the changes needed to the equity policy and the DDEC policy to ensure the school district is in compliance with the new legislation. The DEC voted on 3 recommendations for the board's consideration for the equity policy, including adding the language, the school district, quote unquote, the school district will take ownership of a student's success, removing the word tolerance and changing it to and valuing, quote unquote, and adding after gender and or expression, quote unquote. The subcommittee did not have any quorum and did not meet. The next DDEC meeting will be on February 23rd, 2023, and we join the celebration of the Black Month. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pagan. General Counsel, do you have a report?
No report, thank you.
Inspector General Michael?
No report.
Okay, that will take us to elected officials and delegates, and I'll read the names of the ones that have asked to speak this evening. I'll call you 3 at a time. Please come up to the closest microphone. James Gravillos, President and CEO of the Education Foundation of Palm Beach County. Claudia Kirk-Bartow, Junior Achievement of Palm Beach Treasure Coast. Charmaine Postal for the Palm Beach County PTA, PTSA. You know, you're vertically challenged.
I'm vertically challenged,
yes,
Chairman Barbieri. That's okay. Chairman Barbieri, members of the school board, and Superintendent Burke. 2 quick updates and then one that we're sort of bursting at the seams, but the 2 quick ones. We invite the entire school district to participate in our annual Distinguished Alumni Award on March 15th, where we honor one of our public school graduates who has gone on to great success. This year, our distinguished alum is Gary Lesser from the law firm of Lesser, Landy & Smith. And our business partner of the year is Palm Beach County Administrator Virginia Baker. So anyone interested in more information on that, please reach out to the Education Foundation. The second quick update would be just to share an incredible day. Our business partners are so committed to education, and it starts with people like Florida Power and Light and NextEra Energy. Edwin, I know you were part of the fun here a week or so ago when Florida Power and Light did a $50,000 makeover grant at Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary School, upgrading their STEM opportunities. Chairman Barbieri, Superintendent Burke was also present with us that day just to see the incredible work. In addition to giving this school the chance to really make over their STEM program, over 50 Florida Power and Light volunteers came that day and worked with the kids in small groups. And these young people at Bethune Elementary were building generators. It was just an incredible time of interaction and really upgrading their STEM program. And so a huge shout out to Florida Power and Light, NextEra, and certainly Dr. Mary McLeod Bethune Elementary. And now I'm going to take a breath because you normally don't see me this excited. And to the members of my own board who are here, Mr. Tierney, Dr. Sheffield, Mr. Burke, Karen Brill, you're not even aware of this yet because it's happening so fast. We love our job at the Ed Foundation. Clinomania is a condition where people, they can't get out of bed. They just want to spend their whole days in bed. I assure you, nobody at the Education Foundation suffers from clinomania. For years, we've been talking about the Subarus. Marcia, put on a seatbelt because I'm going to need you to stay in your chair tonight. We've been talking about the Subarus, our beloved robotics program that's been funded by Aerojet Rocketdyne with rocket-powered robotics, and certainly Meredith Trim and Ventus Charitable Foundation with Stepping Up STEM in Pahokee. And the hope was to encourage these young people to look at careers in the sciences and in STEM. We've been talking for the last 3 or 4 years how there was this wonderful contact between the University of Washington and these young people, and they connected them to NASA, and we've kind of beat that into the ground. Members of the school board, Superintendent Burke, I get up every month and I give you these big numbers. We did 10,000 of these and 40,000 of these. Today it's about the impact and changing the lives of children. We've just been contacted by the University of Washington. They have set aside 7 slots for a 1-week summer internship for members of the Subaru robotics team to fly to Seattle, Washington, and do high-level research teaching these young people how to bring creative, innovative ideas to market. 7 of our young people from Pahokee Middle High, and a shout out to Dr. Denard, our principal of the year and one of our rock star principals who has just led that program. We don't even know, we are so excited with this news, we don't even know what to do with it. We're looking at raising about $25,000 because we're going to make sure those kids go. We're going to make sure that 7 students and 2 chaperones get their flights, their hotels, and whatever else needs to be covered for this week. Chairman Barbieri, this is going to be the easiest $25,000 the Ed Foundation has ever raised because Palm Beach County loves our students. And Mrs. Andrews, Palm Beach County loves the Subarus. And these young kids from Pahokee are going to have 1 week at the highest level of research, at the highest level of university in this country, and it's going to happen because Palm Beach County loves our public school. They love our public school teachers. They're going to support this endeavor. Anybody who wants to help, give me a call. We're sending 7 kids to Washington to do high-level research. This is the end of my report. I'm too excited. Have a good night.
Good evening. James is always a hard act to follow. I'm Claudia Kirk-Barto, President of Junior Achievement of the Palm Beach and Treasure Coast. Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, Vice Chair Brill, Superintendent Burke, board members. It's a pleasure to be here and scarfless. I'm so excited. My hair is growing back. I know you're thrilled about that too. Oh, thank you. That's so sweet. As always, I'll start with some of the highlights of our current impact. To date, we have over 75,000 students that will be impacted this year, kindergarten through 12th grade, by over 400 volunteers. And those volunteers are high school students, college students, up to CEOs and community leaders. It's just amazing, like James said, the support that our business community gives to this school district is awesome. And so I'm just going to highlight a few things. Our JA Inspire, it's a career exploration, kind of like a career fair, but a career exploration fair. And we were in Palm Springs, and Emerald Cove Middle Schools this month, and then we'll be at Hal Watkins on March 3rd. We've had so many great business partners come out from Max Planck, Florida Institute for Neuroscience, Johnson & Johnson, Palm Beach County Fire Rescue, Palm Beach County Mosquito Control, who knew? Very exciting stuff. Those kids were very interested. The Bomb Squad, Transfer VR, Lockheed Martin, Loggerhead Marine Life Center, State Farm, Palm Beach State College, 4-H, Ingenuity, Wellington Regional Medical Center, Velocity Credit Union, North Palm Beach Chamber. So lots of partners in our community supporting our young people and introducing them to what careers are in our community to come back to or go right into. We're also doing a project, it's all virtual for Black History Month. So we have 4 speakers that will be going kind of like we did for Hispanic Heritage Month. They'll be going into the schools virtually. So they'll be remote, talking to the students. So we have an attorney from Wicker Smith, Jonathan Pierre. We have somebody, Kenyatta Conway from Kenyatta Speaks. We have Dr. Tiffany McCullough and Dewan Roundtree, and I apologize, I probably said their name wrong, so forgive me. So that's really exciting, and we have about 3,000 students already signed up. So if you're out there and you still want to sign up your students to watch those speakers, we're more than welcome. We're also supporting a lot of the career days that are happening. So if you're watching and you want to support the career days at Hidden Oaks Elementary, Berkshire, Westward, Palm Springs, Poinciana, just to name a few, just call us and we'll connect you because they want more folks. They want about 20 different speakers at each of those schools. So that's a PR campaign for all the schools. And then our High School Heroes program, we've been doing that for many, many years, and one of our longest standing partners is Palm Beach Gardens High School, and they just went to Palm Beach Gardens Elementary. We have the student government class at Palm Beach Central that went to Everglades Elementary School, Wellington High School to New Horizons. I'm running out of time. Park Vista went to Crystal Lakes, Jupiter to Jupiter Elementary, Palm Beach Lakes to UB Kinsey. And how do we pay for all that? With amazing investors like the DeLuca Foundation, or we also have partners like the Florida Collectors Association, or you can come play in our golf tournament where the alumni from John I. Leonard, Pierre Garçon, is our honorary chair. So I said too much. Good night and thank you.
Thank you. Charmaine Postal from Palm Beach County PTSA. All right, how about Dr. Lori George, President and CEO of the United Way of Palm Beach County, Mimi May, Chairperson for the Lake Worth Beach Education Task Force. Good evening.
We're being so polite to each other. Good evening, Mr. Chair, Vice Chair, Superintendent, and members of the board. I'm Dr. Lori George, President and CEO of United Way of Palm Beach County, and I'm just here to say thank you. Thank you for the long partnership we've had together. United Way of Palm Beach County and the school district have been meaningful partners for over 50 years. Keith Oswald is a active board member of United Way. Erica Whitfield is an incredible volunteer in our hunger relief work, and so I really thank you for that. The school district's annual workplace campaign, which you may not know, everybody may not know, is called the Employee One Giving Campaign. And it's been so successful that over the last 24 years, $1.6 million has been pledged back to our community. And the generosity of the district employees each year helps United Way fund 110 programs and initiatives that provide vital services and resources to help support 1 in 5 residents of Palm Beach County. Jimmy Peterkin is the leader of this effort this year, again, and all the district ambassadors. We so appreciate the support that you're giving to this effort. At United Way of Palm Beach County, our mission is to ensure that everybody has access to the basics, a quality education, a place to live, financial stability, good medical care, and enough to eat. We're uniquely positioned to be a strong partner with the school district, whether it's helping students with special needs get access to appropriate medical equipment they so desperately need, whether it's feeding children and their families over the weekend through our Family weekend backpack program, whether we're helping veterans and their families get access to services through Mission United, or supporting 5,500 students access a caring mentor. We're partners together in this effort. Another signature initiative we collectively support is called our Volunteer Income Tax Assistance Program, known as the VITA program. It's actually taking place right now. Residents making $70,000 or less get their taxes done for free. We have about 20 sites available around the county, and one of them is at Lake Worth High School. So again, we appreciate that partnership. So it's readily available. This partnership for the VITA, that wasn't my timer, that was your phone? Okay. I thought I was doing okay here. Okay, it's the 20th anniversary of this program, and collectively over the 20 years, we brought over $300 million back into our community. And when we interview the folks that benefit from this program, it really helps them stretch their dollars so that they can make their rent payments, their mortgage payments, access food, and things for their children. Thank you so much for your ongoing partnership. All you do to make our community a great place to live, work, play, and go to school. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Hi, my name is Mimi May. Good evening, members of the school board and Superintendent Burke. I'm the chairperson of the Lake Worth Beach Education Task Force, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the task force. We would like to extend our gratitude to Superintendent Burke and the school board for listening to the citizens of Lake Worth Beach who wish to keep the children who live in Lake Worth Beach at Lake Worth High School when Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School opens. We support the recommendations included in the 3-7 hybrid study, which proposes that, quote, no SAC area be moved to or from Lake Worth High. As a city, we are moving forward with renewed support and enthusiasm and school spirit for our 4 district elementary schools, our middle school, and our high school. We would like all of our young citizens to be able to learn and grow together at the same school. Thank you.
Thank you. Council Member Susie Diaz from the City of Green Acres, Mayor Betty Resch from the City of Lake Worth Beach, and Justin Katz, President of the Classroom Teachers Association.
Let's try not to break it. Hi, good evening. Thank you so much, Chair Barbieri, Board Member, Superintendent Burke. And I have to give a huge shout out and thank you to the very brave ABC Committee for your hard work and your dedication to the children of all of our communities. My name is Susie Diaz. I am a council member with the City of Green Acres. As you know, the City of Green Acres Council passed a resolution last month asking you to please reconsider Map 7 for a multitude of reasons. The amended map still does not address our concerns. Our City of Green Acres has not been as lucky as Lake Worth Beach or Wellington. Our City of Green Acres is being divided among 5 different high schools with the map you have before you tonight. And we are a 6 square mile city. Our city has been picked apart. Having our community so divided makes it difficult to create a cohesive community, which only hurts our children. While we know it cannot be corrected fully with one reboundary, steps can be made to create more natural boundaries and keep more Green Acres children at schools closer to their homes versus busing. Doing nothing or waiting until the next school maps are drawn years from now to do something truly is a disservice to the 1,954 students affected in our city. We request reconsideration of some of the SACs that are within the City of Green Acres and that they be reallocated to schools that are much closer in proximity. We have certain SACs, such as 180B, which is within 2 miles of Central and is being rezoned to Garcia, which is about 6 miles away. We have similar issues happening with SACs 209A, which is much closer to John I. Leonard and is also being redistricted. That one's going, I believe, to Santa Lucia's. Another concern we have is the safety of our children. More time in buses is more of an opportunity for them to get injured. We do have some dangerous intersections that these children would need to take to get to Garcia, namely Forest Hill and Jog. We know that this is a very high incident intersection when it comes to accidents and issues. We also know that attendance and student performance are incredibly correlated. And knowing that the district resources are limited when it comes to busing, it's in the best interest of our students to keep them at schools closer to home, where they are more likely to be able to find alternate transportation if and when a school bus issue arises. Our city has faith that you will all do what is in the best interest for the majority, with the safety of our students and their educational well-being as your top concerns. We as a city will continue to be committed to all of our children and work hard to support them regardless of where they are zoned. We have no doubt that Garcia will be a successful school under Principal Otero's leadership, but we do ask that you look at our city as a whole and please stop gerrymandering us and splitting us up into so many different schools. Thank you so much for your time.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, members of the board, and Mr. Burke, Superintendent Burke, good evening. My name is Betty Resch, and I'm the mayor, the proud mayor of Lake Worth Beach. I am here to give you a little education tonight. The original plan was sort of a gut punch to our kids, to our city. You may not know this, and this is Black History Month, so it's actually more significant. Lake Worth Beach was founded by an African-American woman. She became the postmistress of Lake Worth Beach. She owned most of the land there. So we had a very interesting start. Then, of course, in the 20s and 30s, it was one of the white-only towns. The area that was going to be cut out originally in the original plan was essentially the historic Black district, the Osborne district. It was used to be known as the Osborne Colored Edition, and that was changed. I was proud to do that in the 90s when I was city attorney. That's gone. But it's a historical area. The families are intact, and those are our kids that go from our 4 grammar schools to the Lake Worth Middle School to the high school. We have, as you are probably aware, an amazing high school. Go Trojans. We have the best basketball team in the county, and Coach Baxley is doing an amazing job. So I want to thank you for reconsidering and keeping not just, it's not about traffic. It's about culture and history, and you've helped us preserve that, and I thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mr. Katz, President Katz.
Sorry. My name is Justin Katz. I'm the president of the Palm Beach County Classroom Teachers Association. I'll be brief tonight. I come here to draw your attention to a document that I sent you. I don't know if you're familiar with it or if you've seen it before, but it is a handbook for the peer assistance and review program in Palm Beach County. This is a program that's existed since the 90s through agreement between CTA and the school district to create positions to allow highly trained veteran teachers to mentor, coach, and assist struggling teachers throughout the district. I'm coming to you today to try to get ahead of the budget process, which is in its earliest stages, to ask if you can try to find funds to allocate to increase the number of PAR teachers, mentor teachers, who are on a special assignment. They don't have classes with kids occupying their full schedule. They are there to help. The reason I bring this to your attention is this program, which is countywide, currently has one PAR mentor to service the entire district. That one mentor is only currently servicing about 8 teachers because they can only do so much. They travel throughout the county. They go from school to school where there are affected teachers who have either chosen to enter the program voluntarily or been recommended by their administrators to try to help them improve some of their classroom management or instructional skills. The district, I've seen over the years, has been capable of funding new positions through budget-neutral maneuvers. That's an expression that you see oftentimes in backup documents when new administrative positions are created. I would recommend that the district look at the budget, find positions that have been funded but vacant for years with no intention of filling them necessarily, and find a budget-neutral way to create more PAR teachers to help our teachers that are struggling. We have recruitment and retention issues. That's not Palm Beach County exclusive, but this will be a way to mitigate that. There are lots of people who are coming to this profession now without an education background, and they are starting at an even deeper hole because of that fact. So this program will help them. It will therefore help our students, and it'll help the district as a whole. So please look into this. Look over that handbook, that manual. It's a great program. It's just got one person trying to service the whole county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Katz. Wellington City Councilman John McGovern and Wellington City Councilman Michael Napier.
Good evening, Chairman Barbieri, Vice Chair Brill, Superintendent Burke, members of the school board. I am here tonight to complete the process with all of you. After numerous hours for the Advisory Boundary Committee, I want to commend the members and particularly Chair Becton for getting us through this process in a way, while challenging, but that is fair and that does the best it can to serve the greatest number of interest groups, the greatest number of communities, the greatest number of people. That has been a tremendously hard job, and Superintendent Burke, in coming up with the hybrid study, carried it a step further. Let me say that on behalf of the residents of Wellington, my constituents, we support the hybrid plan. It's not perfect. It still adjusts people that live in our city, but at the end of the day, it keeps Wellington students in Wellington schools, which is something that I understand is not what places like the city of Green Acres can have because of their boundary lines, which are just very different than the ones in Wellington. The fact is, and when I say boundary lines, I mean the geographic lines for their city, the way their city is shaped. The fact is that we know growth continues to the west. We know that the next high school that is coming is going to be in the west, towards Arden, towards Westlake. The Advisory Boundary Committee worked tirelessly to plan for that process, to make sure that we weren't going to move SACs repeatedly, particularly in Wellington, as students leave Wellington schools to go to that school, so that they would go potentially to Garcia very briefly and then in a few years be moved again. So the fact is that I'm here tonight to say that to ensure the linkage between Polo Park Middle School and Palm Beach Central, to plan for the future growth to the west and not moving students, particularly students in Wellington, over and over again, I urge you to pass the hybrid plan, and I thank you for your wisdom, your dedication, your patience, and I thank also the members of the ABC who showed the same over more than 20 hours of meetings. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Napier.
Good evening. It's Michael Napoleon, but that's okay. It's mispronounced all the time.
Sorry.
I'm a councilman in Wellington. I made notes because I wanted to be brief and stay on point. I attended all the ABC meetings all the way to the end, which, as we all know, was very late. I appreciate all the work that the ABC members put into those meetings, all the work your staff did, and all the work you guys have in front of you tonight. I'm here to speak in favor of the superintendent's recommended hybrid map. I specifically want to speak in favor of keeping SAC 179A at Palm Beach Central and the creation of SAC 179E. That map, while not perfect, enables Wellington to continue to invest in our children's education. It also plans for the future because, as Councilman McGovern said, when the next high school comes online in about 5 years, hopefully sooner, it'll address the westernmost communities and will relieve any capacity issues at Wellington High School by moving some of those kids who are located far west of Wellington to that new school. If you move SAC 179A to Dr. Garcia High School, as I know some of you would like to do, once that new Western High School is online, you'll have to move that same SAC back to Wellington High School, doubly disrupting those students and their families, as well as disrupting the newly formed student body at Dr. Garcia. Moving 179A to Dr. Garcia doesn't solve a problem, it just kicks the can down the road. The superintendent's recommended map is forward-looking and creates the least amount of disruption in what is by nature a disruptive process. It's the best option for both Dr. Garcia High School and Wellington students. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry about the mispronunciation. We're now on agenda topic speakers. I'll call you three at a time. Please come up to the closest microphone. Watch the clock. You have 3 minutes. Mabel Melton, Laura Fine, and Piper Fine.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the school board, and Mr. Superintendent. My name is Mabel Melton. I reside in District 7 in the city of West Palm Beach. I served on this year's Attendance Boundary Committee as a proud representative of the Hispanic Education Coalition. I oppose the superintendent's recommendation. I was one of those 6 votes. Today, for the same reason I opposed it, its evolution throughout the committee's process. This is a badly flawed map for the simple reason that it discriminates in favor of an affluent community to the specific detriment and expense of poor communities of color. At the outset of public committee hearings, I shared a personal guiding principle that I believe should also be yours today, and that is, do not burden unfairly any community in order to lessen the burden of academic relocation on any different community. That did not happen, not by a long shot. A number of speakers of the village of Wellington, including public officials, who boasted about the private dollars they invest in their schools, in their public schools, insisting that their village students' school assignments not be disturbed, and certainly not to be bused to Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School. It was as if they were saying Wellington had purchased a magic pen to draw new lines themselves for you to keep their kids comfortably in place. Well, that elitist approach certainly paid off, first at the committee and here again today. The superintendent recommends that only a tiny sliver of Wellington students, and only 2 grades at that, relocate to Palm Beach Central. Compare that Wellington Teflon-coated outcome to that of nearby city of Green Acres, far less affluent and much more population diverse than Wellington. Green Acres students will be bused to 5 different high schools. Wellington got everything it wanted. That is not fair. That is not equitable. That is not colorblind. Green Acres was repudiated. However you slice it, that is a manifest discrimination. I'm going to cut short. The Boundary Committee recommendation, in my respectful opinion, is a regrettable outcome with absolutely no basis in fairness, intellectual honesty, and most of all, compassion. Make no mistake, your decision today will become an important part of your school board legacy. If I count correctly, the folks at from Wellington will applaud the majority's decision, and they'll do so lightly, not so much the folks in Green Acres. And that, shall we say, is less persuasive communities. Thank you for your consideration. Live with your votes, because you own them.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening, Mr. Burke, Chairman Barbieri, Vice Chair Ms. Brill, and the board, and special thanks to the ABC Committee for all the hard work that you did on this rezoning task. My name is Laura Fine, and I'm the proud mom of Piper Fine, a rising sophomore in the Advanced Theater Program at Olympic Heights High School. I'm here tonight to speak on behalf of course, my daughter, and all the other rising sophomores in the district at risk of being forced out of their in-house programs due to rezoning. These rising sophomores applied for programs at their zone schools based on rigorous applications, auditions, demonstrating advanced skills, academic merit, and demonstrating their commitment and dedication to excellence in their programs. Like choice and academy programs, these in-house programs are vital to students' academic and social development, as well as college and career planning. They function as choice programs do, minus the lottery. These rising sophomores should be afforded the same opportunity to stay in their programs along with the choice lottery programs, rising juniors, and rising seniors. As I have explained in recent ABC meetings and the last board meeting, our daughter passed on auditioning for Dreyfus and West Boca choice programs, applying for Olympic Heights, which was our zone school. The Olympic Heights Theater Program is only open to zone students. Ms. Coyle, the Fine Arts Chair, musical theater and theater teacher, has developed an innovative and intensive theater program that is perfectly aligned with Piper's skills, personality, and love of everything theater. She's had the opportunity to be on the crew of Blithe Spirit, in the ensemble of Mamma Mia, which just closed this weekend, and she performed at States, earning excellent and superior ratings. She also was an actor in a Critics' Choice piece, the student-directed piece, and she is going to States as a freshman, as an actor in that Critics' Choice piece. This is a huge accomplishment for a freshman. It's a testament to Ms. Coyle and Troop 4992. And we thank Ms. Kelly Burke, the principal of OH, for fully supporting this amazing program. Piper's at home at OH, and her troop is her family. On behalf of our daughter, all the rising sophomores in the Olympic Advanced Placement Academy at OH, and all the rising sophomores attending in-house, audition, and merit-based programs, please allow our children to stay in these programs as rising sophomores. Thank you.
Go ahead, Piper.
Hi, my name is Piper Fine, and I am a rising sophomore at Olympic Heights High School in the theater program. First of all, I would like to thank everybody who came out to listen tonight and everybody who's been working and doing such hard work for this rezoning. Olympic Heights has become a very special place to me in the past year. I was new to this school and I didn't know anybody. I managed to gain a family so fast who was actually insane. Everyone was so kind to me right off the bat, and I've never once felt excluded in this program. Since I'm an upcoming sophomore, I am at risk for being moved to Park Vista. This is devastating to me because there's nowhere else I want to be than with my troop, my family, and my home. Continuing on, this is also an audition-based program, so while it's not actually a choice program, I did have to audition to be there. Some of my very long-time best friends go to Park Vista, and yet I'd still rather stay at Olympic than go be with them for people who I've met less than a year ago. My teacher, Ms. Coyle, and all of my classmates have made such a huge impact on me in this past year, and I can't imagine having to leave them. I've learned so much from these people as a performer, as a student, and most importantly, as a person. They've helped me grow in ways I didn't even know was possible. I can't imagine what it would be like to leave. I formed bonds with older kids who have become like siblings to me. I look up to their amazing leadership in this program specifically. Our amazing program leader, Ms. Coyle, lets us take charge in our learning in theater and prioritizing our growth in that specific area. She's always there for us with an open door, school-related or not. You can sit on her couch and she'll listen to you, and I don't know where I can get that from anyone else. I can't imagine what I would do if I was never a part of this program, and even more what I would do if I was forced out and had to leave. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Piper. Alana Kerr, Rebecca Jacobson, and William Telford.
Hi, good evening. I'm Alana Kerr from Isola Bella, SAC 227C. School board members, we appreciate all of your work and for listening to our concerns, both now and earlier today. I keep hearing from the school board that every community is important. I ask that you please keep SAC 227Z zoned for Park Vista and listen to our concerns with the same importance as some of the larger SACs or those who have politicians speaking on their behalf. Keeping SAC 227C does not have to affect any other SAC, and 5 of the 7 maps maintained our SAC at Park Vista, so we know it's possible. You all had several concerns with the proposed map, and I am here to remind you of ours. 1, the feeder pattern. Our elementary school manatee feeds 100% into Krista McAuliffe. In approved study 7, Krista McAuliffe will now feed 100% into Park Vista, except for SAC 227C, which is proposed to be rezoned to Garcia. This breaks the feeder pattern, which are put in place for an important reason. Please think of the emotional effect this could have on our children, especially coming out of COVID years. Number 2 is safety. There is a serious traffic safety issue, a dangerous left turn onto Hypoluxo Road, contending with 4 lanes of traffic and oncoming traffic from the neighborhood across the street. We have had over 200 crashes since outside of our neighborhood since 2020, and PBSO has conducted over 1,300 traffic stops. PBSO recognizes it's an area of concern. However, we have previously been denied a traffic light for 2 reasons. 1, the proximity due to the Turnpike Bridge, and 2, because there have not been enough fatalities yet. Adding inexperienced new drivers as well as buses to this equation is a disaster. This is not about drive time inconvenience like some other SACs who have requested to be rezoned and were heard. This is about the safety of our children. Both points were addressed in the ABC's concerns to Superintendent Burke, and we ask you today to act on them. You are going to and have heard from some larger and more influential communities tonight. We are a smaller community with 126 affected students. Please do not forget SAC 227C, Isola Bella, as you vote tonight. and keep our SAC at Park Vista. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, it's me again, Rebecca Jacobson. First and foremost, I wanted to thank you so much for hearing our concerns during the workshop today. I am a resident of the Isola Bella community, which is located within SAC 227C. My neighborhood requests that the school board adjust the proposed map and keep SAC 227C assigned to Park Vista High School. Our basis for this request has two major points of emphasis. The first one is safety. A public records request to PBSO revealed that since January 2020, there have been 213 motor vehicle crashes at or in the immediate vicinity of the entrance to the Isola Bella community along Hypoluxo Road. These numbers are staggering. What is of further concern is that these crashes continue to occur despite the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office tremendous efforts to make this roadway safer. There are several factors that contribute to this area of roadway being particularly dangerous. Turning left out of Isola Bella requires a driver to contend with clearing 4 lanes of through traffic and 2 left turn lanes. 2 of the through lanes consist of Hypoluxo westbound traffic, which travels down a steep and curving turnpike bridge, which offers very limited distance visibility due to its design. Additionally, a driver must assess the right-of-way and contend with those making both eastbound and westbound turns from the entrance of the Fellagio community directly across the wide intersection. It is a very convoluted turn for even the most experienced driver. When you factor in the inexperience of high school age drivers and the volume of traffic on the road during the morning school commute timeframe, you are looking at a recipe for disaster. Please do not force our young drivers into this dangerous equation. The second point is the feeder patterns. The proposed map sends students from 6 different middle schools to Garcia High School. This far exceeds the recommended 2 to 3 maximum desired feeder middle schools outlined in policy. 227C constitutes the only Christa McAuliffe student population that is being sent to Garcia. By making the change back to Park Vista, Garcia's feeder number would receive relief down to 5. Our request is that SAC 227 be adjusted to attend Park Vista High School. Park Vista's capacity can easily support this move, as SAC 227C's 126 students would only increase Park Vista's capacity to 101%. The advisory board committee included these concerns on their final recommendations as well. Please adjust the Park Vista boundary to include SAC 227C. Thank you so much for your attention.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for your time. My name is William Telford, and I live across the neighborhood there from Isabella. I represent 800 senior citizens, and what they're saying about the left-hand turn is true. Anybody that is familiar with that intersection knows we need a light, and every year we meet with the traffic division, we again got denied a light. So let me share you some key statistics. We meet the criteria 50% of the time. 7 to 9, 2 to 3, 4 to 6. There's enough traffic to warrant a light, but that's not enough. The other area is 5 preventable accidents. This year there's been 3. 1 involved a bicycle. The other one recently was a head-on collision. Fortunately, there were no fatalities, but it's getting more and more dangerous. But the piece that hasn't been talked about tonight is the speed. This data is available from Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. In the recent study, 50% of the people are going 10 miles over the speed limit, which means they're going 55. 20% are going 65 miles an hour. You're asking young kids to go onto a turnpike with no ramp, and you're putting us at risk. So please, reconsider. Thank you.
Dr. Carlos Diaz, Joseph Sophie, Jen Showalter.
I spoke to you during the earlier meeting, and I'm going to scrap most of my prepared remarks. And I want to talk about the macro picture. I used to teach political science, and I would tell my students that every public problem had 2 dimensions. One was the problem-solving consideration, and the other was the political cost. There are often reasons why we don't do the right thing, and it isn't that we don't know how to do it. It's we're not willing to bear the political cost, or we don't want to get certain people's nose out of joint. As I sat on that committee for 22 hours, I tried various ways to come up with boundaries that would be more square, as Mr. Ferguson mentioned. But anytime I proposed something which would move one student from Wellington, members of the committee dug in their heels because I was stepping into sacrosanct territory. I'm an immigrant to this country. If my school district had built a $40 million high school 2 miles from my home, my parents couldn't have gotten me there quickly enough. And I want everybody to know that we tried to come up with a more creative solution, but you can't really come up with creativity when you can only do one side of the map. Secondly, think not only about the people who are speaking to you, but how many hundreds of Latino kids are being bused from eastern Palm Beach County to schools further west, whose parents you have not heard from. Guess what? Every one of them are inconvenienced. Every one of them are having their feeder patterns disrupted. Every one of them are probably going to be with different friends. So while it's understandable to listen to everyone who wants to speak, I urge you to think about those who cannot speak, who aren't speaking, and think about the totality, because the percentage of people that we heard from as an ABC committee in no way represents the universe of parents in this county. I hope that this committee will make, this board will make some changes in the final plan. The final plan must be equitable, but not everyone is interested in equity. Some want their version of the golden rule, and that is he who has the gold makes the rules. Whatever happens to the Garcia High School boundaries, the Hispanic Education Coalition will work tirelessly to support this school so that in a few years, those who are avoiding it today will be lining up to get in. Thank you.
I'm Jen Schulter, and I'm still here. And I'm a mom of 3, and I'm back again to discuss PIR2, the high school boundaries. For those who haven't been following, here's the Cliff Notes. The board paid for a review to study the possible boundary changes and make thoughtful recommendations that should be most beneficial to students, and as we're finding out tonight, it's not. But on top of that, it looked like it was going to be accepted, but the cutoff time for students to enter the choice program came and went. The publicly unelected superintendent chose this week to disregard the welfare of students and waste a large sum of money to make arbitrary decisions to redesign the borders. These children have been through enough the past few years. My oldest son is a junior. In his 8th grade year, he had to finish at home alone. Then he, like many other students and special needs students, had issues being stuck home alone and isolated for a chunk of the following year due to the school board's closure decisions. After that, they had to deal with the trauma induced by the board's decisions treating students, especially those who couldn't wear masks, like my son. The next year, much of the same.
Ms. Showalter, stick to the PIR2.
I am. I'm giving you.
Well, you're not, so go back to PIR2.
This year, it was finally normal, and then the rug gets pulled out from these children. So what I'm saying is that, if we were going to do this, we need to do this with enough time for children to be able to make choices, like going into a choice program. And many issues are ignored, like Arden should be going to Seminole Ridge, not Wellington. For example, there's 42 students currently attending Wellington High School between Castellina and Oakmont Estates. Each student matters. Are you guys going to look them in the eye and tell them they don't matter? Their lived experiences don't matter? You're adding more stress, more anxiety, more fear to their lives. They need stability. These children were already traumatized and their lives upended. They finally get to have a real normal school experience, only to be told, we don't care if you made friends, we don't care if you're part of a team, club, or music group, and in the case of this young lady, a theater group. We don't care if you feel grounded or not. This is what the board is telling these children, their teachers, their parents, and the rest of the community. Their ability to make choices don't matter. Their mental health doesn't matter. Is that the message the board wants to be sending? If not, nix the changes and restore the borders. And there is a solution that is workable. It's a little creative, and I'm going to be talking about that in my non-agenda speech. Children and parents must be allowed to make the choices that fit the needs of their student. And 42 students, Wellington is getting split up into multiple schools. This is unacceptable. You please listen to the people. We have solutions. We want to talk to you about it, but you got to be willing to listen to us. Thank you.
Joseph Sophie, Donald Pearson, Laura Messing.
Good evening. Once again, my name is Lauren Messing, and I reside in SAC 227C. Thank you in advance for your consideration in keeping SAC 227C at our home school of Park Vista and allowing us to speak at your workshop earlier today. As I mentioned previously, SAC 227C is the only one feeding into Dr. Garcia from Christa McAuliffe Middle School. This will make our middle school students' transition into high school so much more difficult, as they will be left out of partner programs between Christa Middle and Park Vista High School, such as chorus, debate, and more. Dr. Garcia is a beautiful new facility that I know will be a great success. However, I can't support the disruption of SAC 227C's feeder pattern and watch the students in our small SAC be the only ones attending Dr. Garcia from Christa McAuliffe, losing so much of what has been built during the difficult middle school years. In addition, you have all heard about the dangerous left turn out of our neighborhood toward Dr. Garcia High. The thought of my child making that turn, whether in a school bus or in her own vehicle, is terrifying. Please keep SAC 227C at our home school of Park Vista, as was shown in 5 of the 7 studies presented. This will maintain the continuity that our amazing home schools of Manatee Elementary and Christa McAuliffe Middle have built for our students by keeping them on their path to success. Thank you all for your time and consideration tonight.
Good evening, board members, superintendent. It's going to be like halftime. I'm going to talk about P2. So just think for a second. I'll give you a scenario. I'm not going to use names or anything like that, but what I'm telling you is true. So if you have, let's say you have a student that doesn't want to be in a class. So she says, I don't like this class, and she asks to get out of it. And they say, no, you can't get out of it. So a couple days later, she goes to her counselor. Can I get out of the class? No, that's a class that you have to be in. Then she goes to the coordinator. It's okay if I get out of the class. No, that's a class you have to get in. Stay in, I'm sorry. Then she thinks, oh, wait a minute. And she goes to a female AP that's new and says, hey, do you know the teacher, every time he talks to me, he looks at my breast, she's out the next day. Empowerment. Other students go, oh, wow, that's it. This same AP sends it to the county. An investigation goes on. A new AP, brand new AP, may not have taught any, gets on board. Investigations going on. And then he gets this note. This letter serves as notification that I'm recommending to the superintendent the termination of your probationary contract with the school district of Palm Beach County, pursuant to 1012.335, which is probationary contract employees may be dismissed without cause or may resign without breach of contract. Your termination, effective February 8th, 2023, will be acted upon by the school board of Palm Beach County at the next regularly scheduled meeting tonight, and will be retroactive, effective to the date of your termination. Now, I don't know, I just know that's a fact, but what I say to you all the time, when you look and get recommendations, do you vet these? Because you couldn't say, hey, you're terminated because of race or religion or your sex, but you can hide behind this. I'm just saying, vet this. We have 2 lawyers on the board, and it's Black History Month, and didn't Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. say, injustice to one is injustice to all? I don't know where the answer is. I know this is happening, but I do know the answer is someone's going to lose everything because some overzealous AP. And the question is it possible as bad a teacher as they think he is? Is it possible they're that bad an administrator? Thinking, hey, administrators, we find problems and get rid of people instead of helping.
Joel Hanley, Adrian Smith, Matt Bueller.
Good evening, everybody. Shalom. And look forward to speaking about a couple of items that are
Your name, sir?
concerning Adrian Smith.
Thank you.
I know that there are a couple of topics on the agenda about district relationship with the Kelly Center. Let's address that. And then the agenda item regarding the administration and the school board. First of all, I have a little bit of a personal sentiment about the Kelly Center. My son was recently advised to go there, and he was advised to go there because of his drug addiction. His drug addiction, I just want to again clarify, started at Ground Zero right at Seminole Ridge High School. And we have a major problem with an administration that is asleep at the wheel and allowing and snowballing incredibly extraordinary amount of not just crimes, but drug use among teenagers, sexual exploitation among teenagers. And I have to tell you, I spoke directly with the deputy superintendent, the chief of police who's here today, and also the vice president of the Seminole Ridge High School. These three individuals I spoke to one-on-one, and I explained to them the outrage I had about the fact that kids have these smartphones on campus, in the school, in the classrooms, and they can watch pornography at any time at will. And their response was the same. All three of these individuals said, well, there's really nothing we can do. Let me tell you something.
Mr. Smith,
we have a problem.
Mr. Smith.
We have a problem.
You want to talk about the Kelly? That's the item you said you want to speak about. The other one was BRD 3. Speak to those two agendas.
Administration and the school board. And their guidance, by the way, is going to be challenged for the many things that have come up. And I will also reiterate what was stated 3 months ago by a speaker who renounced in outrage the fact that you rehired a pedophile teacher back on the grounds.
Mr. Smith,
back to work.
Speak to the agenda item or you're not going to be able to speak any longer.
Unacceptable. The Kelly Center, we should advise them to have some satellite stations at the schools, involve the rehab right there on the school grounds where it seeded and started and birthed for the lack of administration to control the substance abuse in school grounds, okay? And there's the Kelly Center, and I'll address the non-agenda later.
Go ahead, sir.
Matt Bueller, 179E. I'd like to thank you guys in advance. I'm sure that this rezone process and everything that you all have been going through has been exhaustive, and obviously it appears that it's highly controversial. I'm here tonight as a father. I'm not representing a city. I'm not representing a community. I'm representing my 14-year-old daughter. And the reason why I am here is that she's headed into high school. And we have been rezoned. And I'm left struggling to try and explain to her why she can't remain with her friends. And as I read through the report and I look through all of the maps and the updates, all I can do is question the timing. I don't know why it happened now. This is the first time the colors have changed. This is the first time that we've been pushed to another school. And it just appears questionable. And people have come up here with statistics. I'm not going to read numbers to you. You guys know the report better than anybody in here. But what I keep going back to is why this late? Why after we've already signed up for dance classes and we've spent money to go into programs that are offered at this school, why is the current school she's at sending home classroom selections for next year? At a high school she's no longer zoned for, getting her hopes up when she walks home saying, hey, I'm still going. Hey, how am I supposed to handle this as a father? So that's what I'm struggling to deal with right now. And people have talked about mental health, and I have a young daughter that's growing up, going through puberty, and you've heard, everybody knows about COVID, everybody went through it, and finally getting back to normalcy, hanging out with friends, making new friends, and now I'm seeing another spiral because of all this. And again, I know you guys are doing what you believe is best. I understand that. I'm coming to you, speaking to you as a father, and the only thing that I don't understand is why now? Why did it change now? So that's all I have to say. That's my piece. Again, thank you for your time. Thank you for allowing me to speak. And I hope you guys have a good evening.
Mr. Bueller, what SAC are you in? What? 179? 179E. Thank you. John Kittless, Brian Leahy, Lindsay Taylor.
Good evening, members of the board, Superintendent Burke. Thank you for speaking with me, for allowing me to speak here today. My name is John Kittless, and I also reside in 179E. And I'm coming here for two reasons. One, to encourage you to keep our community zoned for Wellington High School. We had a meeting with members of the community on Monday, and the general concern, as was mentioned, was the timing. I was not at the ABC meetings. I did my best to follow them as a concerned father, and at no point was this something that was even seriously discussed. And it was added after the choice program had ended. And that made, as a father and other members of my community who I've spoken with, we feel like we didn't get an opportunity to weigh in on this. We understand it is a complex issue. We understand Palm Beach County is huge. We understand so many students. We understand you're doing the best job that you can to try and accommodate and to do what is best for the overall community. But as I said, we thought we didn't know this was going to happen. We didn't have a chance to prepare. And the biggest concern is, and if you do decide to move us, then I encourage you to reopen the choice program. It had passed when you announced this change. We did not get the opportunity to assess this, to try and make a determination. When we moved to Florida, we were told, there is this wonderful choice program for whatever programs your children may want to do. We did look into this. All the programs my daughter wants to do was at Wellington High, what she was zoned for. It was also mentioned, I also want to emphasize, again, as other people have mentioned, the return to normalcy. Her entire middle school experience was disrupted, pulled in, pulled out. And now she finally had an opportunity, finally had a return to normalcy. And she has excelled at Wellington. She is involved in so many programs. And I do not think it is beneficial for her mentally to be pulled from that. Quite frankly, I don't think she'll want to make that investment to get all involved again, just because I don't think she's going to trust the fact that it's not going to be pulled away from her. And I said, that is my part, and I know you're going to hear from a lot of other people, but but I wanted to come here and advocate for my daughter and other people in my community. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Hi, folks. I'm looking to rezone the microphone to start, but thank you so much for your time and your consideration for this. My name is Brian Leahy. I'm a resident of Section 179E, hoping that you guys reconsider the current zoning plans that you guys have. I'll start, I guess, with two different perspectives. One is a father. My daughter's in first grade. I have another daughter who's 1. This impacts her way down the road. It's a bummer for us as parents who have committed lots of time with our volunteer work, whether it's as coaches, volunteers in general in our community, and just seeing our daughter go through so many different programs where she's making friends, making connections, and hoping to stay with those throughout her time. Regardless of whatever community you're in, that's what you want to do. But I'm also a former educator where I taught elementary school for 10 years. I'm currently a summer camp director where I work with over 500 campers every single year. And I think that the timing of this and what you guys are doing as far as impacting teenagers who deal with mental health more than anybody else on the planet feels egregious and an incredible oversight for them. I can't fathom what it's like to have a daughter or a son who is in 8th, 9th grade, looking at what their future is going to be like, establishing their friendships and their connections, and knowing what their next steps are. To have that pulled out from underneath them suddenly seems like it was just not even thought about for a second. I understand that what you guys are doing is a difficult, difficult task. I don't envy your position at all. I simply ask that you guys reconsider the timing of this and when you are looking to implement for which types of students, because it seems very, very unfair for a student who is mentally prepared for one type of experience as a teenager to then have to completely rethink their entire life. A child who is developed in ages 12, 13, 14, 15, their entire life is their community, their friends. To take that away from them without any opportunity to plan is so unfair. My daughter's in first grade. I'd be bummed for her too. We'll adjust. It would still stink. We'd still picket or do whatever we had to do to help our kids stay in their community. But for the kids who are impacted now immediately, my heart is broken for them, and I hope that you guys reconsider. Thank you.
Thank you. After Lindsay Taylor, Roger Roque is the last speaker that I have. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Lindsay Taylor. I live in SAC 179E, District 6. I have 2 children currently enrolled in Palm Beach schools. I am a former guidance counselor and former substitute teacher for Palm Beach County Schools. If you haven't heard of SAC 179E, it's because it didn't exist as of a week ago, and it was just created by this revision. The ABC committee and all 7 out of 7 proposals never recommended changes to 179E. It was only until the superintendent's recommendation that 179E was changed from Wellington to Palm Beach Central, the only district changed from Wellington to Palm Beach Central. This was done to prevent a so-called bow tie. I see bow ties all over the district in Green Acres, Lake Worth, and Boynton. The primary goal should not be to make a beautiful Google Earth boundary, but instead should be the safety, emotional, and educational well-being of students and their parents. Moving 179E to Palm Beach Central when it has not been on any of the 7 prior ABC committee maps leaves parents and students at a tremendous disadvantage as choice deadlines have closed. Also, we have not had the benefit of shared public opinion up to this point, and the lack of being able to weigh in before this is a concern. The ABC recommendations represent thousands of hours and pages of work by the committee and stakeholders. The 179E SAC consists only of 61 enrolled students currently. Keeping them at Wellington High School does not move the needle much in terms of capacity, and it appears it was looped into the Palm Beach Central District to make 179A, staying at Palm Beach Central, look like it made sense. Please consider the 7 boundary recommendations of the committee members and move 179E back to Wellington High School. Thank you.
Hello, good evening, board members and Superintendent Burke. My name is Roger Roque. I live in Isola Bella, SAC 227C. Thank you for allowing me the time to speak now, as you did a little earlier. I just wanted to address a couple of the issues that will potentially affect our children with the most recent map proposal. To reiterate from my earlier statements, there are still 4 Western Boynton communities that are switching zones to Park Vista when their respective zone schools, Boynton Beach High School, is at 61% enrollment. Please make that make sense to us. I heard talk about equity from one SAC to another, yet our feeder pattern will be broken to accommodate neighborhoods pushing us out that are in the zones with a half-filled high school. Having our 126 children remain in Park Vista will not make an impact in school utilization capacity, and we are requesting for our children to remain there with their childhood friends. Continuity from K through 12th grade is so very necessary for the social development and sense of safety and community for these young lives. Do not break our feeder pattern, please. Also, the conversation about the traffic at that intersection for a traffic light is really moot at this point. A traffic light will only be put in place when 5 preventable fatalities have happened at any given intersection. How many do we need to see? How many can we get? How many do we sacrifice for that? The average speed, as previously mentioned on Hypoluxo, 50% of the time are going 10 miles over the speed limit, and 20% of the time are going 20 miles over the posted speed limit. So that's 55 and 65 miles per hour, respectively. You go ahead and try to turn out of your neighborhood with vehicles traveling at those speeds careening towards you. There have been 2 severe car accidents just in the last 3 months outside of our community. You would have to travel almost 1 mile eastbound to be able to make a safe U-turn at the next traffic light. Please keep our kids safe. Do what's right to protect our children's emotional and physical well-being. 5 out of the 7 proposed maps keeps our 126 students at Park Vista. Not a single SAC will be affected by this but ours. SAC 227C. Please remember that when you make your final decision. SAC 227C. Thank you.
Mrs. Whitfield, you wanted to pull something you have a conflict on?
I do. Thank you so much. Just in an absolute abundance of caution, I'd love to pull CAO 10, please, which is related to the Dory Schlossberg. My daughter is participating in that program, learning how to drive, and I think it's really excellent, but I want to make sure that it doesn't hinder anything going on here at the school board for the approval. So I'd like to pull it and recuse myself from it. Thank you.
Okay. Board members, are there any other items you wish to pull from the consent agenda? Seeing none, we need a motion to approve the consent agenda as modified. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Ms. Ayala. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. So the first item under new business is BRD 7.
Yes, I recommend the board accept and approve the Inspector General's evaluation.
We need a motion. Motion by Ms. Ayala, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. So under this item, Dr. Miller has put together the results of the evaluations that the board members turned in, and you've all got a copy of that. And Miss Michael's evaluation is overall average is a 5.0, which is excellent, based on a scale of 0 to 5. So I want to congratulate Ms. Michael, our Inspector General, for an outstanding evaluation. So we need a motion to, congratulations, Ms. We need a vote on the motion to accept the evaluation so it can be signed by the chairman and the Inspector General. All in favor? Opposed? The motion was made by this. We had the motion made, didn't we, Board Clerk? Yeah, it was made. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. CO3, Mr. Superintendent.
Yes, I recommend the board approve the adoption of the list of instructional materials for the periods indicated and authorize the superintendent or designee to sign all related documents for the FY23 instructional materials program.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. CO10.
I recommend the board approve the Driver Education Safety Trust Fund acceptance agreement and authorize the superintendent or designee to sign all documents related to this agreement.
Motion by Ms. Ayala, seconded by Mr. Ferguson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I'm sorry, that's
6-0.
with Mrs. Whitfield recusing herself.
Okay, COM 4. I recommend the board proclaim February 2023 as Black History Month.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mr. Ferguson. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. COM 5. Did you want to read that?
Yes.
Go ahead, Mrs. Andrews.
Thank you. Proclamation, Black History Month, February 2023. Whereas during Black History Month, we celebrate the richly textured history and the culture of African diasporic people, and whereas Black History Month celebrates the rich cultures, traditions, histories, and contributions of African Americans, which is integral to the history and development of this country, and whereas Black History Month is also a time to educate the general public about how Black men and women contributed to the advancement of human civilization and to raise a general awareness about the unique experiences Black people have faced historically as well as in the present. And whereas Black History Month grew out of Negro History Week, which was founded by historian Carter G. Woodson in 1926. Recognition was expanded by Congress and approved by the President Gerald Ford, in 1976, and designated the month of February as Black History Month. And whereas the School District of Palm Beach County will embrace, celebrate, and honor our students and their unique cultural histories and ensure adherence to School Board Equity Policy 1.041, desired outcomes, i.e., which states in part, the district will select and develop instructional materials that include the study of African Americans and the contribution of African diaspora people to society. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the Superintendent and School Board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim February 2023 as Black History Month, done this 15th day of February 2023 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Andrews. Pursuant to board policy, we're going to stop with the agenda at this point and move to non-agenda speakers. Time certain is 7 o'clock until 7:30, in which time we'll come back to the agenda. So I'll start calling non-agenda speakers. Please come to the microphone. You'll have 3 minutes to speak to us. Brother Carl Muhammad, Ezekiel Edmonds, and Lance Liebel.
Carl Muhammad, and I want to say Happy Black History Month to everyone that might not be aware of it. And the reason why I say such is because we here in Palm Beach County have been really working on this problem feverishly for the past 27 years. And I want to use the words of Mr. Diaz as I start this conversation. He said that there were two kinds of people, problem solving and political. And we know that inside of Palm Beach County, we've been moving everything inside of the community as it relates to problem solving. And every time we come to the board, apparently we must be having some difficulty with the political part of it, even though we can see now with the governor that we have, we're even having greater problems that many times people don't want to engage in the conversation. And I believe that you do that because you don't have a quantitative knowledge about what is actually going on. So I suggest to the board of Palm Beach County, if we would do some research on yourself, go back and do some of the research that you did since some of the work that you might not have performed, but the board members before you, Ms. Richmond, Ms. Cole, and Ms. Montgomery and everybody else, they did a lot of work that many times you weren't aware of it, so you don't know that that kind of work took place. So if you do an in-depth research on yourself, you'll be able to see what Ms. Raines did inside of developing the African American Department and how we moved around the state of Florida and these other things that can help you in the conversation when you get ready to talk about equity from our perspective, because we understand that people don't have a knowledge about us. I was totally shocked when I went out into our community, and people don't really even know who Carter G. Woodson is. And they've been celebrating Black History Month. And if you ask them about the Florida Statute 1003.42H, which is the law that everybody's talking about now, no one have any quantitative knowledge about that. But we here in Palm Beach County,
if we would take a critical look. I think we need to spend some resources in order to get that kind of research did. You spent money on the equity and the other things, but for the worst part of your system, which is African American children, the ADOS children, remember, they haven't even been in the conversation. With your equity report came back, said 60-something% of your teachers don't even know our children. So we got major problems, but we're not asking you to really fix them by yourself. We started the Carter G. Woodson Book Club in our initiative in our community, and I'm asking all of you board members, because we've decided to start with our churches first, because we know it's a spiritual move, and our churches have always provided us with HBCUs and other things. So we're asking all you board members that have a black pastor or pastors inside of your district, if you would assemble them and give us the number. I'm working with Bishop McKinney, Sylvester McKinney, and I'm working with Brother James Howard, a pastor, and Isaiah Clark, and we got other pastors that are lining up. And I believe if y'all would help us, particularly this month, we could move ourselves forward. Thank you very much for your time. I know I can't get it all in a minute. Thank you.
Ezekiel Edmonds, Lance Liebel, Jillian Sapia, Kent Polak, Keith is outer. Go ahead, ma'am. Just state your name.
Hi, I'm Jillian Sampier. I am a registered nurse, and my background includes ICU and chronically critically ill. Presently, I am the lead advocate at the Galactosemia Foundation. I work with rare disease advocacy groups, Every Life Foundation, and the Haystack Project. Rare disease is a public issue. There are 30 million Americans with rare disease, which is 1 in 10 Americans. 2/3 are children. 35% of those children will die before age 5. Individually, there are 7,000 rare diseases. Less than 5% have an FDA treatment, let alone a cure. Although we are individually rare, as a group, quite common, just as common as diabetics. There are more people with rare disease than HIV, heart disease, and Alzheimer's combined. We have no cures, no treatment. However, there's always an opportunity for unique solutions and early interventions to improve rare disease. This includes student outcomes. I'm here because my daughter, Penelope Sapia, has 3 rare diseases and conditions: classic galactosemia, Chiari malformation, and KNCQ2 mutation. It doesn't even have a name yet. She has no cure. There are some days that just break my soul. But I'm here to give and get support. At Coral Reef in her pre-K class, there were 3 kids with rare disease. No cures, facing the same hurdles academically. We need more awareness about rare disease. Rare disease has unique challenges when it comes to school. Without a doubt, I know her teachers and staff at Coral Reef love her and are trying their best to take care of her. My school team tries so hard to help, but it's difficult to get the full benefit from a team when it takes much of my time to explain rare disease. You don't know what you don't know when it comes to rare disease. As an ICU nurse, I was not prepared for rare disease. I was prepared for every other emergency, but not rare disease. It is my mission to advocate and educate about rare disease. Penelope has participated in Early Steps, Child Find, and now I'm stumbling with her IEP. But I have found these programs to be amazing interventions, but with a little more awareness, we can bridge the gap. I have a folder. I've provided a few examples of education-based resources K through 12. We have rare disease scholarships, grants, high school clubs, free teaching plans, amazing resources. I would like to leave here with a starting point for rare disease. I've requested a rare disease proclamation in our school February 28th. This can be a foundation to support our rare students by bringing the first needed step of awareness. As a mother, I would appreciate this.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
Good evening. My name is Kent Polak. I live in the city of Riviera Beach,
And originally, I came here to advocate for a public community high school in Riviera Beach, and I still want to do that. However, I want to share concerns of how I have heard all his comments and concern from the parents that are going to be affected by this boundary change. And right now in the city of Riviera Beach, we clearly understand and feel that passion, because in Riviera Beach, we do not have a traditional high school. So the children in our community already are bused to other public high schools in the county. I live in the community of Marsh Harbor, which is a 403-unit community, gated, and we have 2 high schools that the students that are high school age level go to. And anytime we have situations and incidents and the police are called, and we could always narrow it down to that division between those 2 high schools. So that separates the community. And I still am advocating for the high school in Riviera Beach. I believe that we are deserving of a high school. I think that in your next process of as you're selecting your high schools, that we would encourage you to consider us for the newest high school that's in that area. And I left my information with my board member. I'll leave it at his office. If you would just share with us your consideration, perhaps you can kind of do your surveys and see what opportunities are available for that. But Riviera Beach is growing, and I think that we deserve a high school at this point. So in your future endeavors, please consider us. And as you make that decision for this boundaries, that's always a difficult change. I lived in Miami-Dade County for 30-plus years. I was an advocate for the school system. I've been here for 8 years in Palm Beach County, and that was one of the most difficult things that that I've ever had an opportunity to deal with. Anytime it had to do with boundaries, you always had some people who were not going to be happy. So as board members, your responsibility should be is to do what you have, make the decisions that's going to affect the least amount of people in your changes. Thank you.
Thank you. Keith Zouder, Karen Moran, George Gonzalez. Go ahead, ma'am.
Hi, my name is Karen Moran, and I'm from Save Our Schools America. I'm a former school teacher in Palm Beach County, and I'm here in support of House Bill 7 passed last year. The bill was written to protect individual freedoms and to prevent discrimination in the workplace and in public schools. It is based on the fundamental truth that all individuals are equal before the law and that no person is inherently racist, sexist, or oppressive, and that a person by virtue of his or her race or sex does not bear responsibility for actions committed in the past by other members of the same race or sex, and that a person should not be instructed to feel guilt, anguish, or other forms of psychological distress for actions committed in the past that he or she played no part in, and that discussions and curriculum may not be used to indoctrinate students to a particular point of view. No person should receive adverse treatment solely based on race, color, national origin, religion, disability, or sex. Traits such as hard work and ethics are not racist. I was part of a team reviewing textbooks for the Department of Education in Tallahassee. The following is my partial review of one of the textbooks. Although well written with a lot of historical information provided throughout the book, it was slanted throughout to tell mostly a negative narrative. There was a disproportionate amount of mention of the word slavery or enslaved. In chapters 2 through 6 of this book, slavery was mentioned 189 times. There were also other references saying that Americans were racist. In the chapter on the Declaration of Independence, it's only called the Declaration 14 times. America is called a democracy 14 times, and yet our Constitution says that we are a republic. The book appeared to be slanted throughout, only showing a negative side. Where were the inspirational stories? I believe it's a disservice to our children to only show a negative side of history. There are two sides to a coin. Even in a jury trial, one side seems to be right until you hear the other side. Why not add in some true stories of inspirational figures in American history who, against all odds, made our country a better place because they lived? George Washington Carver, though a slave in early years, helped to turn the farming industry around and discovered over 300 uses of the peanut. George Washington's inspirational farewell address used to be read by students for over 100 years. Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech inspired people to treat each other equally, not by the color of their skin. John F. Kennedy's speech showed people that they can do positive things for their country. Let's restore accurate history through our school textbooks and provide our children with hope for the future.
Thank you, ma'am. George Gonzalez, Carlene Paul, Ashley Labat.
Hello, fellow board members. I'm Jorge Gonzalez Rivera from Lake Earth Community High School. Right now, I'm a senior. I would like to talk to you about the bus problem that I've been seeing throughout I've been in school. The bus has been pretty full. When it gets full, we either have to sit on the floor of the bus, or we have to go walk to our house or where sometimes a long distance, where we have to walk in the heat, rain, or sometimes cold. I have some stories I would like to share with you. One of mine where I have to, sometimes when the bus gets full, I have to go walk to my house or pay for an Uber, which I do not work, but I don't have that type of money to spend on an Uber every Friday. I've been paying for an Uber ever since second quarter till now. Sometimes I cannot call my mom because she's either working, and some students also are going through the same thing. Some other students, I went around my school and got some other students' opinion about the buses, where I got a lot of big stories I would like to share with y'all. They're gonna be anonymous because I asked them if they would like to, if I could present their names. They said no. One of the stories that caught my attention a lot was one of my friends from school where the bus was so full that she couldn't sit down, not even on the bus floor, and she had to walk home. And there was this stranger following her. She tried to call her mom, didn't answer. Dad didn't answer. Sister didn't answer. She kept walking. Her sister answered, and finally picked her up. My friend, my other member of JROTC, another member of JROTC friend that I have, he's in Lake Worth right now by a choice program. He lives all the way in Boynton, and he has to take a train sometimes when he cannot. But this time around, he couldn't take the bus because the bus was too full. So he took a train, and the cops were waiting for him. They were searched through his bag. He felt violated, and it was not even him they were looking for. Now he doesn't even take the train for that exact reason. So he either has to call his cousin or get his brother to pick him up. A lot of this is because I understand that we don't have enough people working. I also talked to a bus driver where he did tell me that they don't pay him enough. But I would like if y'all can at least listen to some of the bus members. The bus driver I talked to, he's only working because of kindness, because his daughter went through so much because she didn't have transportation to go to her house or school. So thank you for your time.
Superintendent, can you have somebody talk to him about the bus? Sure. Yep.
Not that tall. My name is Ashley Labad. I noticed coming in here, we're back to no purses. Got to go to those clear bags again. We did take a picture of the rules. It does say that you need a seat, so I guess, the standing was no problem this time, even though parents were arrested not too long ago for standing. One day, you'll pay for those crimes. Boundaries. Students have already been trying to get into schools and have applied. My students this year, it started in December, which was super early. Usually that's not the case. As mentioned before, the couple of years what you guys put them through that they did not deserve, they're bouncing back stronger than ever. And to do this to them is basically a slap in the face. You're not listening to the parents still. You're not listening to the teachers. You're not listening to the students. They are coming up here begging you to not do this. You guys know exactly when people apply to schools. You know how hard it is to apply to those schools, and you know what it takes for a kid to stand up there and try out for a lot of these schools. You are doing a complete disservice, and it needs to stop. Other than that, my students, when I go back in this week, I'm sure they're going to see what happened and the boundaries changed. And all of them are going to say, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And I'm going to say, I don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. So I don't want to have to deal with that. I already dealt with COVID and everything that you guys put them through. They are bouncing back stronger than ever. My iReady scores, out of 41 students, only 6 went down a couple of points. I'm having the best year yet. And I am seeing them bounce back better than ever. That's no thanks to you guys. That's thanks to the teachers and the parents that have supported them this whole time when you guys did not listen. The ESP program for Mr. Katz is a program that I'm part of. I'm a mentor. So I don't really know what he's talking about having teachers be mentored to do better, because you guys have that for starting teachers. Not sure if it's something different, but I wanted to throw that in there. Also, you guys signed a contract on January 19th and the 20th of January in 2022. And for 12 months, it is in effect, which means the 23 school year, and that was for 1,816 kits for flu and for COVID. Never been tested for flu in school ever. I'm just curious why we had this contract with Abbott, and the distributor was Henry Sheen. Again, a lot of money was spent, which could have been spent elsewhere. We can go to our doctors and get this. It was done in schools. You guys have tons of supplies just sitting there, PE equipment, all this stuff. It's a waste of money, and I would hope that you guys would consider using that money better and that you're not going to try and play this again. Thank you.
Jen Showalter, Donald Pearson, Jacqueline Major.
Hi, I'm Jen Showalter, again, mother of 3, and I'm following up on the border issue. We spent a lot of money on this study, and there are a lot of arbitrary decisions that are being made last second that don't seem very rational. And parents, teachers, students have a lot of questions. And I think before you go any forward with that, those need to be addressed. We do understand it's a new school, it needs to be filled, totally understandable. But there are a lot of ideas that haven't even been discussed yet. And some of them are pretty out of the box. I'll give you that. But one is to make it, open up a special choice option now. I mean, this has been done after the choice was closed. These kids have no options, none of them. And we listened to that man in Riviera Beach, that they're all getting bused everywhere else. Maybe they would like to go there. So, this is one idea. It's out of the box, is to have a special choice option right now open up to allow students and parents to pick if they would like to go to that school. It doesn't have to be focused like Dreyfus or Suncoast, but this would allow families to have a choice, and you would know everybody there wants to be there, preventing a negative, resentful atmosphere. It would also make sure that the kids' mental health is being looked at and honored. Again, we're all questioning why this late decision. These kids have been through enough. Please think outside of the box. And as one gentleman said, we don't need to have a pretty Google map. We just need to be looking at common sense. Wellington is an ACE school. It's one of the best ACE schools in the state. That's why a lot of people moved there to make sure that their kids were going into the ACE program. Now they're not. The other schools, their ACE programs are abysmal. I'm sorry, guys, but it is. Compared to Wellington, it is. So there's those kids have invested in being in those theater programs, being in the chorus programs, they've finally got their legs under them. Don't kick them in the back of the knee. Please don't do that to our children. The next issue, we all have seen the CDC is slipping the COVID vaccine into the children's vaccination schedule. There's so overwhelming amount of studies and data being collected on this, and it's not looking very pretty. The state is already going to bat to fight this, and the parents are wondering if the board is going to try again to supersede all 3 branches of government, as they did with the mask mandate. Pushing pediatric COVID jabs is not an issue that the school board should be advocating. You're not medical providers, and that again is brought up with the fact that you're providing flu, all these other things that we're not reading. Our math and reading proficiencies are tanking.
Thanks. Good evening, Don Pearson. I just have a couple quick things. I was going to talk about the defibrillators, but when I talked to school board members, Ms. Andrews and Mr. Tierney, they're working on that, and I appreciate that because, as we saw, that's an issue we want to make sure that we take care of, so I appreciate that. The other issue was about our relationship with officials in this county and to make sure that the people representing the officials, because we're all under the umbrella of Palm Beach County the school district, and we want to make sure that that we're represented very well. And I will give you that information. I just wanted to give you a heads up. Now the other thing is, and I'm going to say this now, I advocate for teachers, and I say, hey, if you don't want to speak, I will speak for you. Someone texted me, so any debate has two sides. So I'm going to read something. Excuse me. Here it goes. Wellington residents pay significantly higher property taxes in the surrounding areas. We do this without complaint because we're choosing to live in Wellington and pay the higher taxes. This benefits us, mainly the excellent parks and recreation programs, schools that receive the benefits like the Spinelli grants, all the things that the Village of Wellington does for our schools, donations of KN95 masks, cleaning supplies, etc. If I'm paying much higher taxes, I should be receiving the rewards of this. I should not be forced to send my children to a non-Wellington school. If I am choosing to pay more to live here specifically so my children can go to a Wellington school, granted. I personally still don't have school-age children. This is the teacher's senate. She doesn't have the school-age children anymore, but that is 100% why we moved to Wellington 21 years ago. Nothing against the new school. I'm sure it will be great, but Wellington residents should not be forced to send their children there and give up the benefits that we're paying taxes for. A teacher didn't want to come here and say that. I said, and I say that to anybody, I will be the voice if they don't want to speak. So that's the other side of the debate. I don't live in Wellington, and I don't envy what you're doing because it's a terribly tough decision, but it has to be done. Just like when I advocate for teachers who someone wants to get rid of, I want to make sure that everybody does their due diligence. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. Jacqueline Major, South Intensive Alternative Transition School, who serves everyone from Riviera Beach down through Delray. Good evening, board members. Thank you for visiting my school. You saw that I was proven to be truthful and straightforward. So let's talk some more. Trust me when I say I really do comprehend how all of this works. I've been around this practically my entire life. Back in the 80s, attending the Bronx High School of Science, I finally realized who some of my dad's coworkers were. One particularly interesting guy in the English department was a fellow named Edmund Janko. Ed was the speechwriter for Albert Schenker, who was the president of the American Federation of Teachers as well as the United Federation of Teachers. So yeah, I get this. I understand the limitations and the capabilities of school boards, unions, and their governance. And so before you start discussing how to fix the South Intensive issue, let me be clear. Now is not the time to be hasty, cursory, or insincere. It's no longer about saving money. You used that rationale when you voted for South Tech's campus to be temporarily housing us at minimal cost and accelerated savings until a permanent school location was developed and founded. We make what we have given work. And by God, we've worked it exceedingly well while waiting for our permanent school. So this is not the time to merely shuffle us along again. Do not consider it an option to rip up the roofs we've worked to set down by hurriedly shoving us into an existing school's facility. Another temporary relocation 22 miles northwest is not the idea of equity you want to put forth, nor is it a solution. It would disrupt their program and cause chaos on a multitude of levels for us, our students, their families, our staff, and faculty. The only rational and equitable solution, there's that word again, is to simply support us where we are while you build us our new clean and safe facility. The support we need is 4 more portables, as you saw, 4 more teachers, 2 more BIAs, 1 more resource officer, and another bathroom facility. Since you've temporarily housed us for 3.5 years, use the monies you saved during that time to provide us that support. The malformed idea of refurbishing the decrepit remains of South Tech is an inevitable financial disaster. We're all experienced enough to realize that you save money when you buy right the first time. And we all know the money's there. Perhaps the big parcel of land adjacent to our trailer park could be your blank slate to build our new school on. So I hope my words linger with you. I hope my voice rattles around in your heads like a penny in an empty soda can, because this matters. We matter. Our students and their families matter. Your choices will matter. Choices reflect integrity and determine the legacy that you leave. So please choose wisely and try to keep to your original May 20th of 2020 plan, which was to temporarily relocate us only once until a permanent and equitable location is developed. Because at this time, the Band-Aid that you keep trying to apply to us is becoming more of a...
You're welcome. Thank you. That'll take us back to the agenda.
Mr. Barbieri?
Yes.
I would like to make a motion that we just get through the non-agenda speakers, because our next discussion is probably going to take a very long time, and I know we have some people here from our community that would very much like to speak.
I need a motion to change the this is the rule.
To go back to the non-agenda.
I understand. General Counsel, what do we need to do this?
Sure. You just need a motion to suspend the rule to allow the non-agenda speakers to go forward.
Need a motion. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield. Do we have a second?
Maybe I could be more compelling. Can you tell me the organization that they represent, Ms. Bernard?
Sure. I believe there's some ladies here from the Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated that were going to speak, I believe, on partially the agenda item and some other matters.
That's the organization I was trying to support. Thank you.
We have a second. Mrs. Andrews, discussion. Let me start with discussion. We have a whole lot of people sitting here waiting on this board, including the chair of the ABC committee, to finally get to the boundary. So to amend the rules to allow non-agenda speakers to speak over people that came here tonight specifically to get this resolved, I don't agree with, but we'll see how the rest of the board feels about it. Ms. Brill?
Thank you. I would like to amend the motion to just allow them to speak before we proceed with the agenda items.
We have a second on the amendment by Mrs. Andrews. All in favor of the amendment? Let me see a show of hands, please. Opposed? 4-3. I'm opposed to it also. So the motion that the amendment passes back to the original motion as amended. All in favor? Opposed? 4-3 again. All right. So we'll take those speakers. I need to know which ones they are. Can you give me the names? Whoever knows what their names are. I only have 1, 2, 3. I have 6 people left on this non-agenda list.
On the list that I see, it's Robin Lawrence,
No. It's 4 in favor, 3 opposed. So there's only one. So Robin Lawrence, would you please come up to the microphone?
Thank you and good evening. My name is Robin Lawrence. I am a resident in District 7, and I am joined here this evening by members of my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. On behalf of the 248 members of the West Palm Beach Alumni Chapter and the 106 members of the South Palm Beach Alumni Chapter of Delta Sigma Theta, we thank the members of this school board and our superintendent of our district for the 2023 Black History Month proclamation. We acknowledge and celebrate the achievements of Black Americans and other people of the African diaspora. It has been 29 years since our state passed the law that mandated the instruction of the history as revised, including the history of African peoples before the political conflicts that led to the development of slavery, the passage to America, the enslavement experience, abolition, and the history and contributions of Americans of the African diaspora to society. During this time, you were the first and are currently still the only district to establish an office that works to normalize the infusion of African American, Latino, gender studies to increase our students' sense of pride and reinforce a positive school culture. Its first manager, Mrs. Debbie Range, is an active member of the West Palm Beach Alumni Chapter. We thank you for being one of the first districts in the state to take action to implement this law. In November of 2022, our Delta chapters partnered to examine the infusion of African and African American history in public education. Most of our district's high schools currently offer related courses from the state's course directory. Teachers and principals are trained and provided resources and ideas to infuse our history in various courses. Parents and the community are being trained how to support the children. Thank you, school board. And while our district has made great strides in this area, there's more work to be done. We respectfully ask our school board and superintendent to fully implement this law. All students deserve to receive robust instruction and curriculum of our history. The Office of African American, Latino, Holocaust, and Gender Studies includes a staff of 4 who serve a school population of roughly 189,000 students, their parents, and the greater Palm Beach community. This office needs to be elevated to a department and be provided adequate resources to continue and expand its work with its 4 focus areas. Staff is tasked with professional development, staff training, parent support, community advocacy, curriculum development, gathering resources, and model instruction for teachers inside of classrooms to help them to do their job without violating state law. We ask that you begin to adequately staff this office in your FY24 budget and give it the resources it needs to fully implement the state law. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Lawrence. Mr. Superintendent, COM 5.
Yes, I recommend the board proclaim February 2023 as Career and Technical Education Month.
Motion by Ms. Brill, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. COM 6.
I recommend the board proclaim February 6th through 10th, 2023 as National School Counseling Week.
Motion by Ms. Brill, seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. COM 8.
I recommend the board proclaim February 28th, 2023 as Rare Disease Day.
Would you like to read that one, Mrs. Whitfield? I understand you'd like to read that.
Yes, I just was very compelled by our parent that came in, and I just felt that it would be a way to respect the work that she's doing. Proclamation for Rare Disease Day, February 28th, 2023, whereas millions of people across the United States will join the National Organization for Rare Disorders, NORD, in observing the Special Awareness Day, and whereas, according to the National Institutes of Health, 1 in 10 or 30 million people in the United States have a rare disease, and whereas the Orphan Drug Act defines a rare disease as a disease or condition that impacts less than 200,000 people in the United States, and whereas there are approximately 7,000 known rare diseases, these conditions are often lifelong and many are terminal. Approximately 2/3 of those affected with rare diseases are children. About 16 million children have a rare disease. And whereas it is important to teach students, parents, teachers, and staff about rare diseases and encourage inclusivity, support, and resources. And whereas awareness and education in the school system can bring much needed attention to the unique needs of students with rare diseases. Now, therefore, it be resolved that the superintendent and the school board of Palm Beach County do hereby proclaim Tuesday, February 28th, as 2023 as Rare Disease Day, and be it further resolved that the Palm Beach County School District has a strong history of support for its students, declaring February 28th as Rare Disease Day in the school district will help raise awareness within the community and let students and staff living with rare diseases know that while their diseases are rare, they are not alone. Done this 15th day of February 2023 in West Palm Beach, Florida. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Whitfield. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. The next one is an IG4. Since that was one of the school board employees, I'll read the recommendation. I recommend the board authorize the chairman to negotiate the renewal terms of the Inspector General's employment contract for 4 years and bring to the board for approval no later than June 14th, 2023. A motion by Ms. Burrell, seconded by Mrs. McQuinn. Mr. Superintendent, did you have comments?
I did. Earlier this evening, the board did the evaluation for IG, and it was stellar, 5.0. I was hoping to make a comment at that point. It's probably better I didn't. Didn't want to influence anything that might take away from the 5.0. But I did want to just say for the record that, as one of the 3 employees that works directly for the board, I feel very fortunate to have Ms. Michael as part of the team. She collaborates, communicates, and is a solid partner, and I value her input and wisdom and just the collegial way she conducts herself and works with the team here. So thank you.
Thank you. Other comments from board members? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. P2.
Yes. I recommend the school board approve the personnel addendum as submitted.
Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Ms. Ayala. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. PIR2.
Yes. Commencing the 2023-2024 school year, I recommend the board approve the development of the attached Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School Boundary Study 3-7 Hybrid Superintendent's recommendation, establishing the attendance zone for Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School and shifting the student attendant boundaries for 8 high schools: Boynton Beach, Forest Hill, John L. Leonard, Olympic Heights, Palm Beach Central, Park Vista, Santa Lucius, and Wellington, with current 10th and 11th grade students attending the sending schools having the option to stay for 11th and 12th grade, and currently enrolled 9th grade siblings of the currently enrolled 10th and 11th grade students having the option to stay for the remainder of their high school years. In addition, incoming school year 2023-24 9th grade siblings of current 10th and 11th grade students will have the option to stay for the remainder of their high school years. Siblings will be reviewed and processed through the Choice and Career Options Department reassignment process. School year 2023-24 12th grade students that move into or already reside in Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School attendance boundary will be assigned to the high school as it was zoned for school year 2022-23. For students whose attendance zones are impacted by this boundary study, but who are allowed and opt to stay at their current school, transportation will be the responsibility of the parent.
We have a motion. Motion by Mrs. Andrews, seconded by Mrs. Whitfield. Discussion. I'm sure there's a whole lot. Ms. Brill, then Mrs. Andrews, then Ms. Ayala.
Mr. Chair, I pulled the item.
That's what I was just going to say.
Okay, I didn't realize you pulled it. Go ahead, Ms. Ayala.
Yeah, it was on consent. Nice attempt, Mike. So we discussed a really nice, thorough, robust conversation, and we've heard from so many parents from various communities tonight. And I think that what needs to not get lost in this conversation, from my perspective, is that everyone here is a concerned citizen, taxpayer, parent that has valid points. I don't think any of us up here are coming at this with specific intent to leave one community out or favor another. It's about doing the best that we possibly can for the thousands of students that are going to be impacted by this, which is no easy task. And it is, as I mentioned earlier, from my experience seeing the process play out, there were faulty processes that led us to the proposal that's before us tonight that in its current iteration I cannot support. So I know that many of us up here want to provide suggestions. I am going to start with proposing an amendment to place 179A and 179E, 179A in Dr. Garcia High School, and therefore of avoiding the quote-unquote bow tie and allowing 179E to be considered to be moved back to Wellington High. So my first amendment I propose to this motion is placing 179A back in the Dr. Joaquin Garcia High boundary.
We have a motion by Ms. Ayala. Do we have a second? Seconded by Ms. Brill. Discussion? Ms. Andrews?
I will not be supporting this motion. I think we heard from the parents, we heard from the ABC. I think people have been fair, and certainly I do have an amendment to place 179E back in Wellington because the families and the children had not been told this. I've been working with Mr. Burke as well as parents and community leaders, and this was something that I truly want to do, is not disrupt children's lives. And with 179A, I heard from the community of Wellington. I've heard from the parents. I've been in the community, and we walk the walk. So I won't be supporting that, but I am supportive of definitely pushing the children back into 179E because they just found out, the families, the children just found out a few days ago.
Ms. Ayala, would you consider dividing that into two motions since we have
Sure.
different opinions? So restate the motion, and then I'll give you a chance to make the second one after we handle the first one.
I move to propose an amendment to place 179A back in the Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School boundary.
All right, do we have a second on the amended motion by Ms. Brill? Discussion on that amendment? No discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Let me see a show of hands, please. All in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Opposed? Mrs. Andrews and Mrs. McQuinn. That motion passes.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I propose an amendment to place 179E from the Palm Beach Central Zone to the Wellington High School Zone.
Motion made by Ms. Ayala, seconded by Ms. Brill. Discussion? Mrs. Whitfield? Oh, yes,
Sure.
yes, sir.
I just want to, Mrs. Andrews explained this already, but I do want to acknowledge that there was a failure to communicate with this SAC that was not part of the original studies, and that was an oversight by our part, so I apologize for that. And the families that spoke tonight had a valid point that they were not made aware of this until the last minute here. So our mistake, and I kind of welcome the motion to remedy that.
Under discussion of that motion, I'd like to ask the superintendent, is there any way, we spoke earlier about this, has nothing to do with the speaker that brought it up because it was something we discussed earlier, but can we reopen the lottery system for those students who, not just this SAC, but the other students who are being moved, where the parents did not have a chance to have their student apply for choice programs? Is there a possibility of doing that?
No, sir, I don't believe so. I will research further, but we're on a tight timeline to get prepared for the opening of next school year. We did encourage throughout this process, though, we had questions about that, and we encouraged everyone to just go ahead, and if they had any potential scenario where they might want to take advantage of the choice process, they were encouraged to apply. So I'm hopeful it's not as big an issue as you may think, but that was my advice to the families I came in contact with. I believe our team relayed that, and that they should just go ahead and apply in any eventuality, and then be prepared for how the boundaries might shake out.
Yeah, I just think, I won't be here probably for the next high school, but, and I realize that the ABC is not going to want to meet during the summer, and a lot of people aren't here anyway, but possibly the year before, we need to get this boundary change done so that all parents have an opportunity to apply for choice programs for their students, and it doesn't result like this, where they're all of a sudden rezoned and didn't have a chance to apply to a program that they might have wanted to apply to at the same school that they're currently at, and didn't have an opportunity to do that. Mrs. Andrews, and then Mrs.
Yeah, and Mr. Barber, did you vote? How did you vote for the 179A? Did you vote for? It was 4-3. I just want to be clear. I know we lost, but did you vote with us? So what was it, 5-2? So you?
No, I'm sorry, I miscounted then.
Okay.
So it should have been 4-3.
Yeah. And I just want to say, you know, some of the people sitting up here never heard from the Wellington parents. They came out in big numbers. The community has been out. I know we have not been successful in prevailing to keep the children of Wellington together. And, you know, it makes me feel pretty sad because I do work in that community and I work with all the children. And when I think about Park Vista and all of the others that we're talking about tonight, and everybody's flowing from their middle school, their elementary to their high school. And I think Wellington has received a bad rap through this process because I've been listening. I listened to every one of those ABC committees, and I heard the things that were said hurt me because I am the board member for Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School as well as all of the schools in Wellington and Far West. And I think they took a bad rap, and I don't know. I feel like my fellow board members you weren't on the line to hear from the parents. They're going to be devastated when I see this vote here tonight and seeing how you feel about the Wellington folks, and then I see how you're feeling about other communities. Yes, it's a village. It's not just a gated community. So, you know, the village speaks loud and clear about education for their children. So I'm feeling like that Wellington got a bad rap here, and I'm going to say it loud and clear. I will do everything in my power to work with the families of Wellington because they felt pretty good about making their voices known to the ABC. I thank Mr. Burke for accepting the recommendation, and I think some of us just had not heard from the families of Wellington and may not even know about the community that well. Thank you.
Mrs. Andrews, let me ask you a question before I call Ms. Ayala. Don't we have the same situation with 179 on the feeder patterns that we do with 227C? So this change that the board is making is going to disrupt the feeder patterns.
Yes, it is disrupting. Those children, I used to be the principal of Polo Park Middle School. Those children go directly to Palm Beach Central. So when I heard the parents talk today, I know they were talking about safety, but they talked about their children's lives. And now as I sit here and listen to this vote and see it, it seems like you didn't think about the lives and the children in the Wellington that start out at the elementary, the middle, and the high school. I feel firmly that Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School is going to be great, but I think right now, based on what we've done here tonight, after all the hours I sat on that ABC meeting, and I know all of you were not there, you didn't hear all of the Wellington parents, and you may not even know the community that well. So I don't feel good about it.
All right, let me ask a question, Mr. Superintendent. Can you get staff up here to tell us whether or not there's a feeder pattern disruption? Because maybe some of the board members would reconsider their vote if they believe that there was a feeder pattern disruption for the kids.
Yes, sir.
Ayala, in the meantime, would you?
Mr. Sanchez, and if you want to bring up any members of the team.
Go ahead, Ms. Ayala. You want to make your comment?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With all due respect to everybody who's owed it, this has nothing to do with not being knowledgeable about the community, having a disregard for the community, not having attended and listened to the meetings, not having spoken with staff. And it's, you know, to discredit the board members' efforts here tonight with comments like that is not what we're here to do tonight. I'm hearing a lot of conversations about this impact and no conversations about the impact of the 3 other schools further east that have the same situation with their feeder patterns and programs that they're being pulled from, and the splitting that's going on from a community that is also a city that deserves to have educational integrity in its system. The attempt for 179A is an attempt to take a look later on at 180B and also at 209A back into John I. Leonard, instead of cutting them into Santa Lucius and Dr. Joaquin Garcia, respectively, when they are 3 miles from that school if they're moved. And currently with this proposal, they are 6 miles, putting additional buses on the road, putting additional strain on families and students, and creating further issues for truancy in schools that don't need any more difficulties getting to school. So these are conversations that are taking place, and I think giving all of us the benefit of the doubt that we're coming at it, advocating for each of our constituents, is the respectful thing to do. I am not dismissing anybody. I heard the concerns, and I'm voicing the concerns of the people that I represent who deserve to have their voices heard when they're saying there are SACs that are going to be more beneficial to maintaining our educational system and to keeping our kids in our schools, and they're being pulled, and there's no concern for them. So I just want to have an equal and fair and balanced, equitable conversation about what we're doing here tonight without dismissing any of the board members' reasonings for why we're doing things. I am educated about Wellington. I have heard the commentary made by Wellington parents. I'm not dismissing them. I'm simply standing up for my constituents and looking at this from a 30,000-foot view, that we are tasked with doing the best for every student, not just the ones that we represent. And given the lack of participation because of the lack of notice that was given to parents in my district and their inability to join based on their difficulties, they need a voice, and that is what I'm going to do tonight.
Yeah, I just need to say something else. Mr. Barbieri.
I have a bunch of board members who want to speak.
Okay.
Let's go to the staff first to answer the question about the feeder pattern, please.
You need a couple more minutes?
Need more time?
Just a few more minutes, please.
Yeah, we need a few more minutes.
Okay, Ms. Brill, you were next. The order that I have you listed is Ms. Brill, Mrs. Whitfield, Mrs. McQuinn, and Mrs. Andrews.
So I think I'm going to be a little bit easier, so I'll jump in with my recommendations.
I was just reminding the board, you only get to speak to an item twice.
The problem is we're on a different motion, and we've now brought back information on the prior motion.
Okay, I'm just reminding, because I'm...
So if I can go, well, this is going to be my one time because I'm going to do it all at once. So my first request is to the superintendent, because I know that you're not going to be able to give us the impact, but I would like you to consider rising sophomores who are in in-house audition and merit-based programs that are not available at the new zone school to be permitted to stay at the school they're attending. I know you can't answer that tonight. I know that you don't know what the impact is. Just something I would entrust the superintendent to look at it, because there are some programs that if they switch schools, they may not be able to participate in. So that's not a voting item. I do have two amendments. The first one...
Hold on a minute, Mr. Superintendent.
Well, we have looked at that, and those, I'm very concerned about that, because I think the numbers could quickly escalate into the several hundreds of students, and that would really undermine our ability to open the new high school.
Okay. So now I'm going to give you my first amendment is based upon the conversation I had earlier tonight about Boynton Waters. Boynton Waters, just to remind you, is between 1.5 and 1.7 miles from Park Vista Community High School. They have 11 students in the walk zone, so they don't need busing. And that particular community is the only community north of Boynton Beach Boulevard on Jog Road on the east side that, first of all, fronts to Jog Road, and the only community north of Boynton Beach Boulevard that's on Jog Road that doesn't go to Park Vista. So it's 11 students.
What number is it?
It's well, I was going to read my amendment.
Oh, go ahead.
So my amendment.
Is this an amendment to Ms. Ayala's motion?
No,
Well,
these are two new easy ones.
No, Ms. Ayala has a motion on.
Oh, I thought you were switching to what I was doing.
No.
Okay, well then I get my time in full next time.
That's fine.
I thought you were having me do mine.
Okay, Mrs. Whitfield is next, then Mrs. McQuinn, then Mrs. Andrews.
Okay, I'll just say two things. The idea of moving children is not easy. None of this is easy. The boundary changes are so hard. I've been agonizing about this for weeks. I've listened to every boundary committee meeting. This 179A just has not set right with me this whole time. And I did the mapping. I looked at it from the closest corner of 179A to the closest corner of Joaquin Garcia High School is 1.3 miles. I just don't understand how we would send them to Palm Beach Central, which is such a far distance. So, I'm not thrilled with this vote tonight. I don't want to do this. But I do think it's for the best, gives the best shot to Joaquin Garcia to be a successful school. So I do stand by it. The thing I would really like you to consider, Mr. Burke, when Mr. Barbieri was just discussing the idea of opening choice programs back up, I know that would be terrible. I know that the choice department would have a heart attack. But I do think it's unfair for some of these families who didn't realize that they were being moved to not have a choice to do to apply for the choice program. And so I think that if anything can be done to consider opening up choice for our students that are being moved in the SAC areas that are being moved, we should really consider it, just so they can apply. It doesn't mean that they get in. It's an opportunity for the application. I realize it's a month past the deadline, but give them a couple of weeks and shut it down again. But they're going to see after tonight where they're going to be moved, and I'd be much more comfortable knowing that we made every effort to continue to welcome children into our school system.
We're still on 179E. The next speaker is Mrs. McQuinn.
So first of all, I regret that I didn't ask Ms. Ayala to go into detail. This time she gave us more information. So at the risk of being a little crazy, would you please go through that again? You made 3 pieces, I believe. Okay, do that again.
With respect to 179E.
Mm-hmm. Yes, but it had a ricochet effect, right? No?
Am I recognized?
Yes.
Mrs. McQuinn, I think you're asking about how I initially grouped 179A and 179E and why. It was because of the bow tie situation. So then if we, and because, as we heard, they were not notified in time for the choice process. So it's a couple of things.
So I realize this is my second time to speak on this, and I will want to reconsider my vote.
On 170, on which?
The one that we were 4-3.
Okay, so we're going to have to come back to that if a board member makes a motion to reconsider. Right now we're on 179E. Is there any, Mrs. Andrews, did you want to speak on 179E?
I thought we were talking about 179A.
We're talking about that little piece that's
Well, I spoke with the superintendent. We were on board with moving that group back to Wellington. I think that was fair because the people did not know. We are still trying to take care of children, but I really wanted to continue my discussion on 179A, and I know you may not want me. I want to respond back to Mrs. Aiello.
it's not a motion on the floor.
Okay, all right.
Board member makes a motion to reconsider after we get the information.
Okay, all right,
from the
okay.
Superintendent staff.
All right.
We can discuss it again.
Well, I worked with the superintendent on 179E, and we knew that was something that we were going to bring forward tonight, so I can support that.
Mrs. Whitfield?
I just wanted to say I agree with moving 179E back to Wellington. Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of moving 179E back to Wellington? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. Can you tell us now what the feeder patterns are for that other large
Right,
piece?
so if 179A and 179E, 179A is shifted to Garcia. It would be for Polo Park, which includes that 206B just south of them. The Polo Park feeder would be 54% feeding to Wellington High, 46% to Dr. Joaquin Garcia High. So there would no longer be any areas of Polo Park feeding to Palm Beach Central. If 179A were to shift to Dr. Joaquin Garcia High, 179E shifted back to Wellington, and you already have 206B already as part of that proposal in the Polo Park zone that's shifting to Dr. Garcia High. So it's a 54 Wellington High, 46% Dr. Joaquin Garcia.
All right, so if a board member wants to make a motion, you have a question for staff? Go ahead, Mrs. Andrews.
Asking about the feeder patterns from the elementary to middle to the high. I thought that was the question.
We'll have to look at the elementary. That was just the middle to high.
That's important to me because I had a lot of parents in here talking about that, and this board is making recommendations on those kinds of things, disrupting children's lives, indicating that if they had been zoned for Garcia, that they would be the only ones from their neighborhood, that misses their elementary and middle school children. So I thought that was the question that you were supposed to be bringing back, the answer.
Just need a few seconds to check that.
At this point, if you want to discuss 179A, we need a motion to reconsider the previous vote. Only somebody on the prevailing side can make that motion. So the 4 of you that voted in favor of leaving 179A where it is. Do we have a motion? Mr. Ferguson.
I have a question before. I'm not sure why no one else has already done it since there's unreadiness from some of the other voters. But 195A, that was not something we really discussed during the workshop. Staff, what's the total number of students in 195A? And also, is there a express policy that prohibits us from creating a SAC that's not contiguous? Because I am troubled with that. Right now, 179A would not be connected to the remaining part of the Palm Beach Central SAC. So is there an actual written policy to anyone, council, or otherwise, that can advise me of that?
You're talking about 179A.
Yes, Mr. Chair, because this bow tie issue, I mean, it's not a contiguous school zone now. I don't like that. I don't like it in District 7, and I definitely don't like it for the Palm Beach Central High School's student base. So is there a written policy that requires the school zone to be contiguous?
I mean, technically, the bow tie configuration, as we call it, is contiguous. And it exists elsewhere throughout the county. So it's not absolutely prohibited by policy. It's just better to have compact and sensible boundaries where possible.
Is it contiguous, or is there a road that, so it's contiguous because there's a 5 or 6 or 8 lane highway that connects? You believe that counts?
I don't think contiguous is defined in our policy. I mean,
so no written policy.
Coming from a zoning and land use background, usually the road's considered part of the contiguity.
Right. So, okay. So again, the question would be back to 195A as an apple. How many students are in that area, in that SAC?
Right. SAC 195A has 50 students attending Palm Beach Central, their own school.
Those students, before this current recommendation, those students would have been zoned to go to Palm Beach Central, yes?
That is their current zone, correct?
Okay. Mr. Chair, I'd like to move that we move the students in 195A back into the school zone for Palm Beach Central. I thought, well, we haven't reconsidered. Nobody's made a motion to reconsider anything. So since that didn't happen,
We have a motion on the floor for 179E, which was handled.
correct.
We have no current motion on the floor, and we're
Right.
discussing all kinds of stuff. So somebody needs to make a motion so that we can get back.
I just made a motion as to 195A that it be moved back to Palm Beach Central.
Mrs. McQuinn?
It was my understanding when I talked about the prevailing vote, I thought we were talking about the prevailing vote could only make a motion to
reconsider.
I thought that was 179A.
Yes.
Okay, well, I didn't know we were moving past that.
No, we're not, because nobody's made a motion.
Okay, so staying on that, please, would someone read for me exactly what the prevailing vote was? Read it to me so I'm 100% sure.
There was 3 of us that voted against it.
Correct.
It was Mrs. McQuinn, Mrs. Andrews, and myself. 4 members voted in favor of it. That was Miss Ayala, Mrs. Whitfield, Mr. Ferguson, and Ms. Brill.
Mr. Chair, may I ask a question of Board Member McQuinn?
Sure.
So, Board Member McQuinn, I'd like to see 195A go back to Palm Beach Central. Would you be inclined to vote in favor of that SAC moving back into the Palm Beach Central school zone? Because if so,
Mr. Ferguson, you need to make.
Yeah, I don't know about that until we get to it.
We need to make a motion and get it on the floor, and then you can ask.
Well,
We need a motion on the floor. We don't have a motion on the floor. So
again, my motion is 195A. I've said it now 5 times, I believe.
Okay.
195A, I'd like to see it move back into Palm Beach Central.
Do we have a second on Mr. Ferguson's motion to move 195A back to Palm Beach Central? Mr. Ferguson, your motion fails for lack of a second. Does somebody want to make a motion to go back to 179A?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion to go back to 179.
You can't make the motion. It's got to be somebody on the prevailing side.
Okay.
Mrs. Brill.
Well, I would like to get the information on the feeder pattern before we make a motion to reconsider.
Well, that's
what they're doing.
okay.
We have
Go
that
ahead.
info. All right, so for 179A, the elementary is zoned elementary is Panther Run. Right now, that's the only area of Panther Run that then goes to Polo Park that then goes to Palm Beach Central. So it would sort of be reversed. It would be the only area of, now there's a lot of kids in there, so there'd be Panther Run to Polo Park, then to Garcia instead of Palm Beach Central. So it would be the only SAC, but again, there are a lot of students within that SAC, so there would be a large group of students moving together, but it would be Panther Run, Polo Park, and then Garcia instead of its current Panther Run, Polo Park to Palm Beach Central.
So it will be the only SAC of all the kids that go to Panther Run that won't go to.
They'll either go to Garcia.
Say it again, please.
Yes, they're currently at that SAC's 179A, Panther Run, Polo Park, currently Palm Beach Central. If that SAC is then zoned to Garcia, it's Panther Run, Polo Park, and then Garcia. So it would be the only Panther Run SAC. But again, there are a lot of students within that SAC, so it would be, Panther, they would move with other students, but Panther Run, Polo Park, Garcia would be the feeder.
Okay, good. Ms. Brill?
I want to make a motion to reconsider the vote on 179A.
Do we have a second on Ms. Brill's motion to reconsider? No, it can be anybody at this point. Mrs. Andrews. Discussion, Mrs. Whitfield.
Thank you. I'm wondering if we could find a compromise here, and I just want to ask you guys about it. Dividing 179A in half along that natural line to square off the borders. That way we would get, some of the kids would go back to Wellington and some would go to Garcia in that mind. Do you see how we would, I've been looking on a map trying to see if there's a natural line or anything. I don't really see one. I know that would cause a lot of drama, but it is the reason why I don't like it, is that I don't like the idea of kids being in one section. I feel like the half of that community is so close to Garcia High School and that they should go there. Mr. Link has a very confused.
Are you talking about a north-south line?
Yeah, north-south line to divide it.
Those are single communities together, or both the north side and the south side of Lake Worth Road. You'll be dividing the Grand Isles into two pieces, and you'll be dividing the Isles into two pieces.
Oh, they're one community. Okay.
Yes.
All right, then I will stop that conversation. Carry on.
Mrs. Andrews.
Yeah, I just want to go back to what I'm fighting for my students and my communities and my families. I have nothing against anybody up here, but I just do feel that we have not treated Wellington and the schools there properly tonight. I really want to say that. And I love Garcia. It's my school too. And I'm worried because we are now dividing Wellington in a lot of ways. I'm looking at the programs that they have at Polo Park. They have the engineering program, which feeds in to Palm Beach Central. Nobody's thinking about the programs that these children have been in for years that feed into the next school. I've been with this for 13 years as the board member, and I'm just seeing how it's being decimated right now. I think we're going to overload Garcia now with some of this stuff because we haven't really thought it through. And I listen very closely to a lot of the parents and the community on this. And so I really feel like now, as I listen to all of this, and I don't know what's going to come up next, but we really did Wellington in tonight. I really do. And I don't think we thought about these children. They're going to wake up in the morning with all of their programs. And I know we're going to have great programs at Garcia. But all of these children who have been in these programs, they're not going to be able to take it to the next level. So we did that tonight with this vote.
Any other discussion? Mr. Ferguson.
So again, 179E is now back inside of Wellington High School's school zone, correct?
That's correct.
179A right now is not. Yes?
Garcia.
It's with Garcia. I know this, yeah. So how many, let's see, 262 of those students, 179A is part of the city of Wellington? All right, so 262 out of the how many thousand high school age students in Wellington are now not going to school inside at Wellington High School if we kept it as such?
The majority of students within that SAC reside in the village of Wellington. There are a handful that are in, unincorporated Palm Beach County. So the majority of that 262 are within the village.
Right. And the question is, how many high school age students attend that school in Wellington? Like 2,000 or something, right?
Palm Beach Central?
The city of Wellington, how many high school age students currently live within the city of Wellington's borders? I've seen it myself. I believe it's well into the 2,000. So we're talking about roughly 10% of the city's residents who would not attend school in Wellington.
We'll pull that number up.
Yeah. So we pulled this some time ago when we went through this discussion about the necessity or non-necessity for a school in Riviera Beach. But what I was thinking, the motion's on the floor, and this is discussion as to that motion. It seems to me that 190, there should be a contiguous zone. I know you say a road constitutes a connector, but that just seems weak to me. I'll just use that. 195A, I mean, to me it would make more sense to have, if you're going to say 179A, I think the parties who were on the non-prevailing side initially with regard to 179A, you all want 179A to go back to Palm Beach Central, yes? And so what I was trying to get out before was that, well, I'd be comfortable with that if we put 195A in with Palm Beach Central as well, because I think there has to be, I know we have bow ties, but that's not necessarily ideal and optimal. So my thought was, if you all would agree to move 195A to Palm Beach Central, I would agree to move 179A back to Palm Beach Central. This is what I was trying to get out to the board earlier. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yes. Ms. Brill, then Mrs. Whitfield, then Mrs. Andrews.
Okay, so I'm still on 179A, but I want to bring up something that I was going to make in my second amendment. I'm very concerned about the safety issues and the feeder pattern. The feeder pattern for 227C, SAC 227C, it's 100% of all the students that are at Christa McAuliffe. They would be the only ones not going to high school with their peers. And so if later I make that amendment because of A, the safety issue, which is a grave safety issue, and B, the feeder pattern issue, if we wind up moving those other two SACs, keeping the SACs at Palm Beach Central, the unintended consequence on Joaquin Garcia, we're not going to have students to attend there.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking ahead at what I feel is a grave concern with the safety and the 100% of the students. So, I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, Mr. Barbieri, I have a plan. Get excited or don't. But so you just said that some of the people in 179A are unincorporated, and some of the people are part of Wellington, right?
Correct. The majority.
Is
live
it
in
the Lake Worth dividing line? Is that what divides it? I'm totally guessing. I have no idea where
I
Wellington.
don't think so.
border
We'd have
is.
to take a look at the municipal.
Is it about
boundaries.
half and half?
Yeah, we're gonna.
Okay. Well, as you
It's on
think
that
about
now.
that, here's my suggestion. We split 179A in half. Half of the kids go to Garcia, half of the kids stay at Palm Beach Central, and then we pick up 195A also goes to Palm Beach Central. We get rid of the bow tie. I get a chunk of the kids over there into Garcia, which is what I think is the issue for me, is that they're, in my mind, walkable. But we take the unincorporated kids and we put them at Garcia, and the incorporated kids in Wellington. Wellington gets to stay whole. They get to continue having just two schools. But we get 125 kids that are walking distance to Garcia that go to the school. Joe has a look on his face like I've gone crazy.
I'm trying to figure out where this line divides, because
Yeah.
outside of Wellington is a retirement community, and
So that's the unincorporated is just retirees?
I don't know if that's everybody.
There's a few. There may be a few. I'm looking at. I mean, it looks like there's fewer than 10 students.
7 to 10 students.
Yeah.
All right.
It's very sparsely
Remember,
populated.
you may recall that Panther Run was recently annexed into the village of Wellington, and I think there are plans to possibly annex the surrounding communities. not currently in Wellington, but.
Oh, okay. Well, I still like 227C going back to Park Vista, so I would agree with you with that on Ms. Brill.
Okay, I haven't been keeping track of how many times you've each spoken. You had 2 chances to speak on the motion that's on the floor. So I think everybody's had a chance, except maybe Mrs. McQuinn, to speak twice. So we need to vote on the motion that's on the floor, which is to reconsider the vote on 179A.
Mr. Barbieri, since it is my district, may I just have one more time?
It's up to the board. The board, you want to give Mrs. Andrews a second time? It's up to the board
Dale
members
did.
to make
Yeah,
a
thank you so much.
third time.
I just don't want Wellington to be moved again. We have taken the children from Arden out at the 20-mile bend. All of our schools have been crowded. Most of the children, many of them, Mr. Ferguson, they're coming from somewhere else. Many of them in choice programs, they're coming from way west of the city. And so now what we have done is we're really removing the children that truly live in the neighborhood, and we may be having to impact them again when we open the new school. And that's my question to the group here. Some of these kids may be impacted a second time. Can you answer that question?
I mean, the reality is, yes, if and when we build a new high school that's northwest of Wellington, there's probably be moving kids from in that direction, including kids from Wellington into that area. And I don't know, we may have to pull kids back in. I don't know. I'll have to look to Jason. You guys, any thoughts on that?
The new high school?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of new development out there. We've got Westlake and Avenir, so it'd be, kind of a total approach looking at all the new development at the time that high school's needed. But, yeah, I mean, it's not out of the realm of possibility.
Yes, because Wellington goes deep. And those kids that go to Wellington Elementary, Binks Forest,
Mrs.
goes
Andrews,
deep.
enough. Okay? We have a motion on the floor to reconsider. What the board originally did is they moved 179A into Dr. Garcia High School. That is not what was currently on the superintendent's recommendations. There's a motion to reconsider to put it back in consideration of the superintendent's recommendation, put 179A back at Palm Beach Central. We need to vote on that motion. Everybody's had an opportunity to speak. All in favor of moving 179A back to Palm Beach Central, please raise your hands. Motion passes with Barbieri, Ferguson, Andrews, and Mrs. McQuinn, and Ms. Brill in favor. The motion is 5-2. I assume the other 2 board members are voting no. All right, so we've settled that one. 179A stays as it is on the ABC committee's recommendation.
Mr. Chair,
Mr. Ferguson.
I'd like to move again for 195A to be moved into the Palm Beach Central zone, school zone. 195A.
Take that again, Mr. Ferguson.
I'm asking that 195A be moved back into the Palm Beach Central school zone.
And it's seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Discussion. Mr. Ferguson, you made the motion. You want to go first?
Yes, very briefly, yes. I believe that we should have contiguous school zones. So obviously there's going to be a need to move multiple SACs, as I see it, into Garcia. I'm looking at 208B and 209A. We did not discuss this possibility during the workshop, but in any event, this is the direction I'm hoping to go in, and I'm asking for the board support in moving 195A back to Palm Beach Central, since I believe I was told by staff that's actually where those students are currently zoned to attend.
Ms. Brill.
Thank you. So my concern is that you're depleting the enrollment in Joaquin Garcia. So because of that, I'm not going to support it. I mentioned before that I do have an amendment to make later. I think that safety is very important, as well as the feeder pattern. So for that reason, I won't support that amendment.
Ms. Brill, I guess I agree on 227C. Isabella should not be rezoned. They need to go back to Park Vista where they were originally, because of the safety concerns. And
Point of order.
I see what you're saying. Mr. Ferguson, if you take 195A and move it out of Joaquin Garcia, and then we take 227C and move it out of Joaquin Garcia. I'm not sure how many kids we're going to have left going to the new high school.
But, Mr. Chair, I mentioned, I gave the board a preview. My thought would be to consider 208B and 209A going to Garcia High School, because I thought I recalled a few hours ago staff mentioned that Santa Lucia's, they're overpopulated right now, correct?
No.
No? I know Lake Worth, not Lake Worth, but John I. Leonard, I know we have a large population there, but what's Santa Lucia's current population amount?
Current utilization of St. Lucia's.
Oh, the current utilization?
I think they're right around 100, maybe a tad over.
Tad over.
October count. We're checking right now.
And just to expedite things, if you don't mind, please let us know what the current number of students are in 209A and 208B.
I'll get that. Yes, I believe there's a significant number of students in both of those SACs, but I will confirm. All right, 208B. Santa Lucia SAC 208B currently has 209 attending students within that SAC, and 209A, 215 attending students within that SAC.
All right, and then 179A has 262.
262, correct.
And 195A has how many?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that one?
195A has how many students?
195A, I believe that was 50. 50, yes. And to answer the question, Santa Lucia's utilization as of the October FTE count was 104%.
104%.
Correct.
So if that 414 students were moved from Santa Lucia's to Garcia, what would Santa Lucia's population be at that point? 90 what?
That's misleading, because this is all taken out.
209.
We have to tell them what the study showed Santa Lucia.
While staff is doing those numbers,
Calculation.
speaking to the motion on the floor, the reason I'm opposed to that again is because I will be in favor of the 227C moving. And the other piece is I don't want to put two zones. I don't want to put two SAC areas now into Joaquin Garcia, who until tonight never even thought they'd be in Joaquin Garcia. I can't live with doing that.
Let me just do that right now.
So that is the reason I can't support this motion.
Thank you. I'll be really fast. I don't support 195A moving, and one of the reasons that I think we have to be really cognizant of as a board is that the perfect school consists of both affluence and need, and you can't take away every zone of affluence and send it to the school that they want to go to, and that's what I think we are doing in large part here, and it makes me very nervous for what's going to happen at Garcia High School. So if we want a great school, we have to consider evenly dividing, the needs of the school so that you don't overload it with too much need, just like you wouldn't want to create a school that didn't have any need at all. So I think we need to be considerate of that. So I think 195A, if we're moving 227C, 195A has to stay in Garcia. And then I am concerned about picking up that section of Santa Lucia's at the north end and sending to Garcia. I think those 208B and 209A, they are not. I'll just say I'm concerned. I'll leave it at that.
What is your concern though? Like, speak plainly. I don't know.
So in 209A and 208B, the numbers are ridiculously high, because I did actually ask about this, and you could tell me what they are. But the number of kids in those school districts are, I think, we have 500 kids in each one.
Right, 414 if you add it together. So what's your concern? You're saying they're poor? You use this term affluent, and
yeah, so
I've never read a book that said necessarily putting people who are poor.
Listen, group.
Is the
Mr.
bad
Ferguson,
thing,
you're on number 3. Mrs. Whitfield, you're finishing up number 2.
Okay, I'm done.
So if you can provide the information to Mr. Ferguson.
I have the answer, right.
We can move on to other board members that haven't had a chance to speak.
So that's the 209 plus the 215. That's 424 total students. If those students exit Santa Lucia's, looking at the 5th year projection, that puts Santa Lucia's at 84% utilization.
That would be a problem. Okay.
All right, anybody else want to speak on this motion? All in favor of moving 195A to Palm Beach Central? That was the motion, correct, Mr. Ferguson?
It was.
All in favor of moving 195A to Palm Beach Central, please raise your hand. Mr. Ferguson and Mrs. Andrews vote in favor of that. Board members voting against it, please raise your hands. Mrs. McQuinn, Ms. Ayala, Mrs. Whitfield, Ms. Brill, and myself, Barbieri. Ms. Brill, do you want to handle 227C?
Thank you. Well, actually, I have two, and I had started with the other one first, but if I may, I don't think they're going to be very controversial. So my first one is an amendment to split the subdivision of Boynton Waters out of SAC 253B. That's tiny. They're the smallest community that we're talking about tonight, by the way. Amendment to split the subdivision of Boynton Waters out of SAC 253B to enable this community within the walk zone to Park Vista Community High School to be zoned for Park Vista Community High School.
Do we have a second? Seconded by Mrs. McQuinn. Can you tell us what the results of that would be?
It's only 11 students, so it would be a minimal impact.
In this entire SAC 253B, there are only 11 students, Mr. Chair?
The subdivision Ms. Brill referenced, the Boynton Waters, there's 11 residing high school students. So, if all were to go to Park Vista, it's a very minimal impact.
Mrs. McQuinn.
Yeah, they're within walking distance, correct?
Yes.
It would be foolish to me to not approve that.
Any other board members want to chime in on this one?
I definitely support that.
Okay, all in favor of Ms. Brill's motion to split? State it again, Ms. Brills.
To the amendment to split the subdivision of Boynton Waters out of SAC 253B to enable this community within the walk zone to Park Vista Community High School to be zoned for Park Vista Community High School.
All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.
Okay, and my second amendment is an amendment to keep SAC 227C, that's Isola Bella, at Park Vista Community High School due to the safety and feeder pattern issues.
We have a second. Seconded by Ms. McQuinn. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That motion carries 7-0.
Mr. Chair.
Ms. Ayala, then Mr. Ferguson, then Ms. McQuinn.
Thank you. Can staff tell me the numbers for 2 SACs? And I'm doing it now because it's hard to get a word in, and I just want to have the picture in my mind. For 180B, if we move 180B to Central from currently Dr. Joaquin High, and I'm asking because of Green Acres' request and concern that the Forest Hill Jog intersection is dangerous and that they are already splitting with the 179A motion failing, splitting their district schools into 5. Can you please tell me what that number looks like? I think earlier you told me 180B had 96.
Correct.
Okay.
96 students attending.
Okay. So I'd like to propose an amendment to move 180B to Central from Dr. Joaquin Garcia High.
You would second that, Ms. McQuinn? Okay, discussion, Mr. Ferguson?
I'd like to ask a question of Board Member Ayala. So, Board Member Ayala, so if 180B goes to Palm Beach Central, which SAC would you be looking to move into Garcia School Zone?
I tried and failed to solve the problem with 179, and this is still a concern that needs to be addressed, so that's why I'm offering it. And I'm going to look at 209A moving into John A. Leonard, and then I wanted to ask about 181A and 181B, but then we're talking about, 434 students. So the only way to have done that would have been a swap with other SACs, and the 179A SAC failed, but that doesn't take away that these are concerns that were raised by the community I represent.
Would you be comfortable, Mr. Chair, one follow-up question, please, to Board Member Ayala. Please.
Go ahead.
That's your
second one, so go ahead.
Is this a comment or a question, though? But in any event, I don't think I'll have anything else to ask regarding this. But Board Member Ayala, 208B, if I support your motion for 180B, would you be supportive of 208B going into Garcia school zone?
208B, which has, I think, 209 students,
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Because I am concerned as most persons supportive of the school, making sure it has an adequate population.
Right, I understand. Can staff tell me what that puts the capacities at for the three schools, Central, Dr. Joaquin Garcia, and Santa Lucia's? If we consider moving 180B and 209B respectively into Central and Dr. Joaquin Garcia.
So that was 180B into
Central. 209 to Garcia.
209A.
209A or
208B. I'm looking at the number of students. I apologize.
Oh, 209B with 209 students. Apologize for the confusion.
208B.
Now, that would create sort of you'd create an island with 209A. If we move 208B, then you've got 209A no longer connected to any portion.
So there's no roadway that runs through? You just told me a road can connect things, so I'm just following what you're telling me.
Well, we would have to look at somehow making, if that SAC remains at Santa Lucia's, we need to look at a way to make that contiguous zone to Santa Lucia's.
Ms. Ayala.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I was going to propose 209A be moved into John I. Leonard.
So what is the motion that you have on the floor, Ms. Ayala?
I'm still getting questions answered, but the initial motion was I'd like to propose that 180B be considered to move into Palm Beach Central.
And we had a second on that. I believe Mrs. McQuinn seconded that. So is there discussion on that item from board members that haven't spoken twice? Mrs. Anders.
Just concerned about the crowding. You said it's 60. I just want to get the number for that 180B going into Central. How many students?
96. We'll break this down.
Okay, so that's 96 in the Central. And then that comes out of the Garcia.
Any other discussion on this motion?
So I have that.
All in favor? Opposed?
Palm Beach Central
Let me see the favor again, please.
makes Palm Beach Central 106.
I can't see your hand. Ms. Anders, you're up.
And it makes Garcia 96%. Yeah, that's just with 106.
6 in favor, 1 opposed. I'm not in favor of changing the map again. So the motion carries 6-1. Anything else? Ms. Ayala?
Can staff please answer if we consider moving 209A into John I. Leonard? Because of the proximity, it's my question, and because that's a Green Acres community that I would like to have the opportunity to go to their Green Acres community school. Can you tell me what that does for John I. Leonard's population and Santa Lucia's population?
General Counsel, correct me if I'm wrong, but we can't have staff answering questions when there's not a motion on the floor. So, Ms. Ayala,
Okay.
if you want to make a motion and get a second on it, we can ask staff all the questions.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, then for exploratory purposes, I propose 209A be moved to John I. Leonard.
Second.
215.
All right, Ms. Ayala, you made the motion. You want to speak first?
Thank you. Just the question about the impact on John I. and Santa Lucia's capacity.
Okay, just a second.
To John I. Out of Santa Lucia's, 215.
Okay, we're going to go with the out year. So into John I. Leonard, that would be plus 215. And then out of Santa Lucia's, make sure that that's Santa Lucia's here. So, gotta put in a minus 215 here. So that puts Santa Lucia's at 91.
And John I at
108.
So John I. Leonard, 108% utilization. Santa Lucia's, 91.
Okay. Mr. Chair, I withdraw my motion.
Mr. Ferguson?
Actually, Ms. Whitfield, did you have your hand up?
I just wanted to
Sorry.
change my vote on a 180B. I know it doesn't matter, but can you change that to a 5-2 vote? I'd like to vote against it as well.
Okay.
Thank you.
That was the one that I was 6-1 vote with me in opposition, so now it'll be two of us.
180B from Garcia to Palm Beach Central. So that would be 5-2, still approved.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Ferguson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move that 208B be moved into the Garcia High School zone.
Seconded by Mrs. Andrews. Mr. Ferguson, you go first.
Thank you. Staff, the conversation we initially started, looking at the chart, I mean, this is Palm Beach County. We're pretty much on a grid system, so we pretty much have roads that run north and south. So I made an assumption that there was a road that runs through 208B. Well, actually, I was thinking of 209A, so strike that. But in any event, I think, again, my concern regarding Garcia High School is that we make sure that it's properly populated, and 208B has a very substantial number of students there. So although we've already moved 179A out, which had about 262, we kept 195A there, which is 50 students, and if we move 208B there, we'd have roughly 259. So that's pretty much a net of zero. So I think that would be a good idea for us to move 208B into Garcia's zone and out of Santa Lucia's zone. And then also 209A, that was my question, staff. I'm sorry, Mr. Chair. I did have a question regarding 209A. Is there not a road running north-south from 209A into the other part of the Santa Lucia's zone?
It looks like the Tavern Hill Road
Okay.
runs
So it is contiguous.
No, I think there's some confusion, maybe by some of the comments we mentioned earlier by staff, but a road, we're saying contiguous is if the sacks touch, right? If they may only meet at the corners, but we consider that to be contiguous. A road runs, Jog Road runs through, half the county. You could not argue that those sacks are contiguous, even if there's separation. So that 209A would become an island and be non-contiguous if we move 208B to Garcia. And there's just one thing I think I want to put on the table for the board as we look at these different scenarios is that I intend to open up a controlled open enrollment process later this spring for Garcia High School because if we have seats available and we have students that want to be there, I think there's an opportunity as we open the school to welcome them in, and that may help address some of your concern, Mr. Ferguson, about not having enough kids to get the school off the ground.
Mrs. Andrews, Mrs. Whitfield, Mrs. McQuinn. I don't know who had their hand up first, so go for
Well, I'll go first because I'm still worried about what I was worried about at the beginning when we were doing 179A and 179E because we're making these decisions and in the morning somebody's going to wake up and find that they didn't know that they were actually going to be moved. And that's why at the beginning I was so concerned that we kind of try to follow the ABC and the superintendent's recommendation because the more of these that we move, the more kids, just like the kids I was talking about for my area, are going to be upset, and their parents, because they don't know anything about what we're doing right here tonight. So I'm still worried about all these changes, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just hoping that we can kind of, I like the open enrollment. Mr. Burke, you told us about it. I love that because I really do believe they're going to come. We're going to make that school great, but I just don't want it to be where people bombard and get really upset and leave the Palm Beach County School District because they feel they didn't have a voice. That's why this ABC is so important and the superintendent's recommendation is so important. So I worry that if we keep doing this, it's going to be more children that are going to get this information and families, and they'll be upset because they didn't have an opportunity to know this. And so we are late in everything that we're doing here, and choice is closed. People are getting their schedules. I was a teacher and a principal. Everything's moving now. And so I think we have to be careful. That's what I'm trying to say.
You know, I know that there's two other board members I called on, but I agree, Mrs. Andrews. I mean, we're actually putting out study number 4 without any input from the community. I mean, none of these people have expressed an interest in all the things that the board members are throwing out here that we should be moving people around. ABC spent many hours putting this together. I think we should try and stick with what ABC's given us unless we've got a compelling interest from the community to relook at something. I agree. Tomorrow morning people are going to wake up and say, I never heard about anybody moving our community back to this school. I thought this was settled. I think we just need to be careful. We turned this into a workshop instead of a board decision on the map that the superintendent's presented to us through the ABC. I just think enough is enough. I mean, we're way out of control here. Mrs. McQuinn, then Mrs. Whitfield.
God, I'm not feeling out of control because this is the first time, for example, that I can hear Ms. Ayala talk about the Green Acres situation. And frankly, why build schools out west? No one wants to go. Let's have a Green Acres high school. We have 1,954 kids, high school kids, in Green Acres. And I realize that sounds a little out there, but seriously. So I want to hear, they're all of our kids, but I want to hear from the school board member who is in touch with the constituents. So I think the only thing, we've done 2 things.
Mrs. McQuinn, we had an opportunity at a workshop. That's where we were supposed to answer all these questions. You were unlimited time. Everybody had unlimited time to ask all the questions they want. We could have gone for a 12-hour workshop. We are now turning this into a workshop, and based on comments by different board members, we're totally redrawing the map that the ABC spent hours and hours, days and days, talked to hundreds, if not thousands of people about. I mean, this is out of control.
I am so sorry to frustrate you, Chair Barbieri. I will conclude my comments.
Thank you. Are there any other board members that want to put it out?
Desperately, thank you. So, 2 things. Please don't move 208B out of St. Lucius. I realize that was a discussion that we were just having. I want to say that it would be detrimental to St. Lucius, and I do not want to hurt that school. Secondly, I know I'm not on the prevailing side of the 180B, but I think that someone who is should reconsider due to the conversations that Mrs. Andrews just said. I completely agree with you. I think we need to stop moving. I think we've made enough moves at this. I think we've fixed 179E, 179A, Boynton Waters. We've moved 227C. I don't understand why we need to move 180B anymore. I think it's going to be also detrimental to Garcia, and that's something that I really want to make happen. As a final note, I did pass out this map that was a photocopy with like an orange line drawn around it. That was an approximation of Green Acres boundaries, just so you all know, because it wasn't written on the piece of paper. So just as you know what that was that I passed out. So I really do think I agree with you, Mr. Barbieri and Mrs. Andrews, and I think we need to shut this down now.
Mrs. Ayala.
I don't believe that I can support 208B going over based on the amendment that's on the floor. And I think that, with all due respect, we made changes based on public comment tonight because this is the only opportunity we have to do that, is to make amendments to the plan, or it has to be pulled for a month and the school cannot get prepared. So I really did not appreciate the tone to a board member trying to express that concern, and I really appreciate all of us respecting each other's viewpoints on a difficult topic.
We have a motion on the floor, Board Clerk. What?
The motion on the floor is to move SAC 208B to Dr. Joaquin Garcia High School boundary.
And Mr. Chair, I withdraw that motion based on the information provided by Superintendent Burke, specifically that if we were to move 208B into Garcia, you would then have a quote island 209A, which is not, it's been represented, at least it's my understanding, that is not prohibited by our policies and procedures.
All right, so you're withdrawing the motion.
Based on the information that I just disclosed, yes.
All right. Any other board members want to make a motion? Mrs. McQuinn, did you have a motion you wanted to make?
I do not.
Fine. Anybody else? Superintendent, I believe that's the end of the agenda items. We voted on all the motions that were on the floor. We'll go back to the meeting. I don't know where. I think the only thing left on the board agenda is the board discussion item by Mrs. Whitfield. I withdrew mine, BD2. So we have to go back to non-agenda speakers. We have, if they're still here.
Don't you need to approve the whole thing?
The main motion.
We need to approve it, though?
Okay. Yeah, we need to vote on the main motion. All in favor? As amended. Main motion as amended. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0. I'll call on the six non-agenda speakers who are left. If you're still here, please come up to the microphone. Adrian Smith, Boris Niesenbaum, Edward Niesenbaum, Alexandra Burke, Robin Lawrence. No, I'm sorry, Robin Lawrence already spoke. Robbie Alexander.
Greetings again, it's Adrian Smith. Continue the discussion I had brought up on a non-agenda item regarding benchmarks to establish a more secure school environment. And I had personally sent some of the board members a email regarding this with numerous suggestions on there, which I cannot spend the time at and the time span I have to reiterate that, but it was sent to primarily the legal members of the board. I will resend them tomorrow and ask that you please take a look at it again and with reference. Frankly, what we have is it's an enormous problem. And when I say, asleep at the wheel, I don't say that lightly because, frankly, I think that there's a detachment. There is a sense of essentially people do not want to involve their time and their efforts in these problems and sort of let them navigate themselves out, and they will sort of go away. And that's just not a wise or responsible conclusion to do that. And it's going to take a responsible group taking leadership, doing what their responsibility is, taking actions on these things. I'll bring up a very simple one. All of these sex parties that are going on in the divider panels of the bathrooms, all of these drugs, where my son learned to use drugs inside of these little private toilet stalls. And what you do is very simple. If you can't get rid of them legally speaking, and then you figure out a way to address it. You minimize the sizes of these things. You do whatever you can. You do whatever you can to boof up. And I'm also advocate what one of the board members said to the media when they said that we should have a wand. We should wand all people entering into schools. This is when they were talking about increasing security measures, and I think that needs to happen. And I think they need to get some some transparent backpack programs going when we're going to start taking these phones out of these kids' hands and getting them back to schoolwork, get the pornography out of their minds and out of their hands into the social media. I'm going to read you an article I'll share with you, the Sun Sentinel. Sun Sentinel, this is wrongdoing by the district. And this here is, an inspector general is an idea the school board had previously resisted for a long time. It's important to figure out how to do this. The need is urgent, and Inspector General, we need to have...
Thank you. Are any other people I called on here? Mrs. Whitfield, you want to discuss your board discussion item?
I'll do it super fast. I spoke to Eric Stern, who is in charge of our CPR program at the high school level, and he suggested that his PE teachers and the programming within our schools could take on the possibility of doing hands-only CPR with our middle school students. It would be something that would be first in the state to be able to take something like that on, and I think it would be so beneficial. We just had 2 incidents recently where students went down in the middle school setting. We believe that there is a possibility American Heart Association would support that with additional kits, and so all I'm asking of the board is that we ask the superintendent to look into it and see if it's possible for us to lead the state on middle school CPR hands-only training. Thank you.
I'm happy to look into that.
I just want to say that I think it's a great idea. developmentally, I had looked it up, and they're the right age, so the sooner the better. So thank you.
I like it.
Bennett said he'd look into it. So. If there's nothing else, we'll need a motion to adjourn. Motion by Mrs. Whitfield, second by Mrs. Andrews. All in favor? Opposed? Motion carries 7-0.